Is there a dog in there?
Not in the township.
Hey, that's Fred's dog? Or was Fred's dog? Oh, he's up.
Good evening, everyone. Sorry, that was my dog acting up.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Thanks for joining us, Fred. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Glad to lend whatever little knowledge I have on the topic.
Well, it's more knowledge on the topic than I have. Mary and I talked to Mary a little bit before the meeting last night, and when we were at the PSATs training, they had a couple of township managers there, and both of them were very adamant, stressing the importance of changing up auditors after every period of time. I think they said it was every 5 years. So far, that was the only professional opinion I've received on the subject. And so I said, okay, well, these are two longstanding professional township managers, so let's maybe do what they have to say. So I appreciate you coming in and kind of giving a different perspective.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know, Dave, where they, the source for their
1, 2, 3
pronouncement was, what their, just a general
I think
feeling that they had, or something.
I think it was a general opinion that they had, and the reason that they did that was their reasoning was, when you get a organization that's too in bed, or you're too used to working with each other, that you get a shorthand, right? And so you might not be as diligent if you have fresh eyes every X period of time. That was, I don't think they gave I don't think they gave any professional source. They just said this is a way to kind of make sure you always have fresh eyes on your accounts. So then I wasn't really, married to either, one way or the other. That was just the one opinion that I received, and it seemed like fairly reasonable advice that every 5 years or so you put your auditor out to bid. So,
well, I'll elaborate on it during the course of my notes. I circulated a, I know Mary is very conscious, you all are conscious about keeping this brief as possible, or at least making good use of the time. Unfortunately, the area of governmental accounting involves a lot of different authoritative sources, which are it's like sort of an alphabet soup once you get into it. But I sent her a PDF that combines the comments and the authoritative sources for the comments that I would have on it.
Okay.
I think that'll be useful, because in my line of work, we're always looking for, are we doing the procedures?
This is the one we want to see.
In line with
So how do I get out of the screen?
Authoritative pronouncements. And there are a mess of them. But I was from talking to a few people who are more intimately involved in that field than I am, pointing me to a couple places. And it sort of makes sense. I mean, some of it, the governmental standards vary from what the 5-year thing is something that is commonly associated with the Securities and Exchange Commission, which applies to publicly traded companies.
So that's probably where they got theirs. Right?
Yeah.
They probably, you know, this
would not surprise me, because that's when you hear about rotating auditors, 5 years is what always comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the source of that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Hello.
And my guess is there's probably not a whole lot of folks out there. I mean, how many auditing firms specialize in municipal law? I mean, yeah, municipal accounting. Is it all accounting firms, or is it a limited number of specialized firms that focus?
I think the latter.
Yeah.
I can tell you from my experience, there's a lot of guys that want to get into it, but are not especially experienced or proficient.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to establish a beachhead in it and establish a learning curve as they collect your fees.
Right.
Which is not always a good situation.
Right. So if you bring something out to bid, well, I guess we can have this conversation publicly, but as you bring something out to bid, you need to be very aware of the history that that firm has with you working with municipalities. You don't want to get somebody who's brand new just trying to make a name for themselves.
Yeah, or they've made a name for themselves already and it's not so great.
Right.
And let's face it, the auditors are in business, and everybody's looking to do the best job they can for the lowest cost they can. And I think that's where many feel that familiarity with the client is not necessarily a bad thing, that you have established some of the learning curve, yeah, and done some of the legwork, and you have that built in as your infrastructure, which gives you a cost advantage.
Right. Right. Because you streamline your accounting process. You're not taking the time to learn, right?
To reinvent the wheel.
They already know what they're doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is anybody there?
I'm here.
Okay.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. All right, I'll just put myself on mute.
So is Mary on, or past 7?
It looks like we're missing both John and Mary. Is John here?
John's on. Mary did try and get on earlier, but she's not on right now.
Oh, there's John. Okay. Yeah, well, we need our chair.
Nancy's on. Hey, Kathy, can you mute your phone? I think we're getting a little bit of feedback from you.
Well, should we start without Mary?
The phone just rang here. I think that may be Mary. Just hold on a minute.
Okay. I hate to do that. For everyone on the call, Mary's going to lead this meeting. She's the vice chair, as you know, and she's going to chair this meeting. See her, Joan?
Okay, thanks, bye.
Mary?
Can you hear me, Nancy?
Yes.
Okay, I am very sorry to everyone for starting the meeting 5 minutes late, but I was not allowed to get into Zoom. Next time I chair, I will set up the Zoom meeting and I will control it. Okay, so let's start the meeting. We'll call it to order. Who is present? We have our Board of Supervisors, myself, Mary McVeigh. We have Nancy Morris. We have Dave Gerstenhaber.
So we have Sue Walker, Fred Shearing. There's a
Donna
little.
Day.
Yeah. Man.
Okay, we have Sue Walker, Jeff Eastburn, Paul Agassi, Joan, our manager, Fred Shing, and does anybody know how many members of the public?
Yeah,
John
there are
Auerbach.
20.
I didn't say your name.
There are 20 participants. Not everybody has their video on, but there's a button that says participants, and if you open that up, you can see everybody who's on the call. And there are certain people who don't have their video or microphone on. If you just want to,
I can see that 20. Okay.
Okay, or now it's 22.
Very good. Okay. All right. Fine. All right. Well, let's get started. We'll start with the public comment. This public comment can include any comments relating to the agenda items. We want to give everyone who wishes the opportunity to speak. Even though we're meeting virtually, you still must state your name, whether you're a resident of the township or a non-resident taxpayer in the township. If you don't identify yourself, your comments will not be included in the official minutes.
No, it's on.
So someone, if you can just put yourself on mute, that would be helpful.
Okay. Are there any public comments? Okay, then we'll move forward. Before we start on the reports of this meeting, I'd like to make a few little announcements. First of all, I'd like to announce we have had an executive session about personnel issues, and we will be having a second executive session probably this week. Okay, and now I want to move on to the meetings themselves. We've had a lot of feedback from our residents, and we've had a lot of residents participating in our meetings. We want to keep this going. Unfortunately, our residents can't stay online for 3 to 4 hours. So the goal tonight is to make the meeting 2 hours or less. And with that in mind, I would like everyone to be very contemplative and succinct. And we want to talk about just issues and solutions. We don't want any politics or opinions because we just can't have that. We need to move forward. And I think we need to move forward with civility and recognize that we all have different opinions, but we're all here for the good of our township. I had a whole speech written up, which I lost in the last 5 minutes. But basically, that's trying to get the meeting done in 2 hours is the goal. If an item comes up that requires a lot more discussion, we will move it to the next meeting if possible, if it's not something that's time sensitive. And with that in mind, I just hope everyone it tries to get these meetings done a little quicker. It's not that we don't want your comments and questions, we do, but we're all under time constraints. So I want to go forward with that. So let's start with, we did the public comment. John, I'd like to pass it to you for item 3A about the treasurer's report. Can you take it from there, John? Are you there, John?
All right, I'm trying to unmute. It didn't work right away. Can you hear me now?
I can, John.
Okay. Make a motion that the board approve the July treasurer's report, which includes the following disbursements. The general fund with disbursements and transfers of $85,840.67. Park and Recreation Fund with disbursements of $5,987.39. The Open Space Fund with disbursements of $50,493.74. Capital Reserve Fund with disbursements of $3,742.64. The Highway Aid Fund with disbursements of $26,573. The Emergency Services Fund with disbursements of $514. And the Fire Hydrant Fund with disbursements of $580.80, leaving a balance at all funds totaling $1,200,140.31.
I'll second that, John.
All right. Only question I got is the Open Space Fund has got a high disbursement this month, and I'm not sure why, but I'm sure the treasurer can tell us.
That disbursement was for the easement for the Stoltzfus farm.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Any comments on this? Further comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, you got the next one too, John. Keep on going, John.
Zoning officer report. In the month of July, 6 permits were issued. $6,301 in building fees was collected and $575 in miscellaneous fees was collected. No recreation, open space, or impact funds were collected. 15 inspections were performed and there were 3 zoning issues reported. Any issues with any of the zoning issues reported? Joan, could you just read the list of them without getting too?
Well, the first one, 3327 Appleton Road, that's a violation for the demo by neglect of the house and the HARB, and I think we do have some comments about that. Mark, are you going to comment?
We have continued to be in communication with counsel for that property owner concerning the continued enforcement. We did receive actually a demolition permit this week for that house, and we will be referring that to the HARB for their consideration and recommendation, and ultimately that will be an issue before the Board of Supervisors. So that is a continued enforcement action with this new application by the property owner.
The next item was for 1833 New London Road, and that was high grass on a parcel that went to sheriff sale. So that is being mowed by the bank. And then 4 Duncan Lane is some bamboo that has encroached from one property to the next, and they're trying to deal with that.
I think we're just going right down, John.
Yeah, can you go on, John? Can you
All
continue
three.
with the next item?
The PC did not hold a meeting in August. The HARB and Historic Commission did not hold a meeting in August.
John, I would like to just quickly make a few brief notes, if I may.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
We had made a decision in conjunction with the New London Area Historical Society that we would postpone attempting to hold any historical talks until 2021, excuse me. And given our schedule, that really means March 2021. We have
made this information available to the public on the Facebook and through other means. And I just wanted to bring this attention to the board. Also, I'd hope to report that we were done with the historic resources map that we've been working with the County Planning Commission in producing, but we have a big disconnect on the addresses that they're using and the addresses that we're using, and we'll be sorting through that. So this was not a task I expected to have to deal with, but the map itself is in good shape. And finally, as was noted, we expect to have 3327 Appleton before the HARB, and we will have to make a recommendation for the supervisor's consideration. When that comes before the HARB, due to the complexities of the situation, I think it would be appropriate if we are able to draw upon the advice of the solicitor, because this is already an ongoing legal action. And so I'm just informally making a request of the supervisors at this point, but I did want you to be aware that we would like the help of the solicitor in dealing with this if there are any peculiarities, and we can work out the details of what might be involved later, whether it's having Mark present at a meeting, which will be a wonderful clumsy Zoom meeting, or whether it's simply having some sort of conference with Mark prior to the meeting. That's all.
Nancy or Mary, do we have to vote on that, or can we just give a verbal, yes, that's a good idea? I mean, how does that work? Regarding the lawyer, regarding Mark?
I think it's the sense of the board. I mean, we've already been asked to give an opinion on, you know, what the HARB needs to do in order to engage the process. This doesn't happen that often, at least at this level. You know, we're happy to take whatever assistance assisting the HARB moving forward, but I think it's just a sense of the board.
And you have my support. I think it's a good idea. I think this has been an ongoing issue for a long time. My heart goes out to the people that live in that area. And Mark, if you can help them, which I know you can, I'm full support of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's that's an easy decision to make there. We need to get to the bottom of this.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Okay. Okay. Is that it, Paul?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay,
Thanks,
John, can you move on to the Parks and Recs? And hopefully Greg can jump in.
Park and Recreation and Open Space Board will present a summary of their August meeting.
All right, Greg, if you have anything to tell us, please do.
All right. Yeah, I have a couple updates.
Good.
One is regarding the Healing Gardens at Crossing Park. So with its current configuration, I believe the best option would be to convert this area to a low maintenance native plant pollinator garden. I believe this can be achieved by planting perennial flowers along with native ornamental grasses in a way of plugs, possibly adding some signage for the visitors to kind of learn about what is growing and the benefits of what the plantings would be. I did obtain a quote, excuse me, from North Creek Nurseries on some of plants that they recommended. The quote that they gave me is not set in stone, because he said they could possibly, he's still kind of working out whether they could give us a break on the cost. And I'm going to meet with him tomorrow and visit the site and kind of get a total exactly of how many plants we're looking for. That quote for the plants were what came in at $33.90, which equaled out to $1.30 per plant. But again, that's not set in stone. I'm still trying to figure out if that's the exact amount. So I'm visiting it with Scott Fisher tomorrow of North Creek. He also recommended that we could kind of do it in phases, where we would plant some in fall, kind of do like a third at a time, and then move to spring would be the next planting. I've reached out to local gardeners as far as via social media, and I've got a running list that's up to 8 volunteers that are willing to help and install this garden planting. I also scheduled a meeting with a landscape designer. His name's Bill Haldeman, and he's does some work. He used to work at Longwood Gardens. So I scheduled that for Friday to review the site and possibly aid in the layout. Also, Eli from our board is reaching out to a local school to see if any students could possibly aid in the layout design or other work involved. Another update, I was asked to do some research on the possibility of a dog park. And I took a look and did see that the nearest dog parks currently to the crossing area would be Goddard Park, which is 10 minutes north, and Carousel Park, which is 19 minutes east. And with that said, I think a dog park could be of interest to the community. It would fit nicely in the grass section on the south side of the Healing Gardens, which is the side closest to the road. This area could provide easy access from the parking lot. It would not require removal of any trees. It's just a big grassy area with nothing else going on. It wouldn't disturb any other natural habitat areas, and it would tie nicely into the Healing Gardens, as visitors would basically walk through the gardens to get to on their way to access the dog park. As far as I looked at the measurement of Goddard Dog Park, and their park is roughly about 200 by 200, and that would fit well in that area. I've worked on getting some estimates from fencing companies as far as what that would cost. I met one company this past Monday and have yet to receive that quote, but they're working on that. The other two are yet to be scheduled. Another idea, the installation of the fencing could be a good project for an Eagle Scout. And I've also obtained a quote on just the materials from a company called Esh Fencing. And they quoted $2,871.01 for all the materials that they think would be involved in that installation. As far as some of our work, trail maintenance, Paul, his neighbor, Bill, and myself cleared the Keene Trail. Paul also mowed the Yellow Trail in Banffshire, and the Creek Road Trail was cleared by Paul. And then just a couple other things that are going on. Jennifer on our board is reaching out to a resident at the corner of 896 and Parsons Road, just to inquire about possibly putting signage for Crossan Park, because it's unless you drive down the road, you don't know it's there. Another thing that we've talked about is adding a hiking trail map at the parking lot at Crossan. Currently, I don't believe there's any hiking trail maps that show all the trails through the preserve. And finally, we had another Eagle Scout reach out to us regarding some possible projects. Provided him with a list of ideas, including the installation of the dog park, some tree plantings that we've discussed at our meeting, which would include replacement of some of the dead trees that are along the meadow trails and the shrubs, as well as adding some shade trees near some of the lower parking lots. Another one was adding bluebird boxes near the meadows. Currently, there's no bluebird boxes. And he expressed interest in the tree planting and the bluebird box project. So that's as far as that went. We just spoke via email. That's basically it as far as my update.
Great, thanks, Greg. I have just one question on the dog park. I think all this work is fantastic, and I like that you're looking for volunteers, which is great. On the dog park, one suggestion, if you haven't already done this, is have you reached out to anybody from London Grove to talk about their experience with installation or maintenance, that kind of thing?
No, I haven't. Is that London Grove? Is that who owns Goddard?
Yeah, it's in,
Okay.
Yes.
so that might
So
be
yeah,
easy.
no, I haven't. I've considered. I mean, I'm kind of basing, the measurements and everything on
Yeah.
that Goddard Park. So
I'm
yeah,
sure they'll be like, I'm sure they'll be more than happy to talk to you about it and maybe even offer some advice and do's and don't do's or whatever.
okay, yeah, definitely. I'll definitely do that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Greg, I want to say thank you for all the work, all your initiative, and doing all these wonderful things for our township. I just think it's absolutely wonderful. And
Yeah, no problem.
keep going. And if there's anything you need from the board, please tell us.
All right.
Yeah, this is great. It's great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
So Greg, let us know when you want to present the funding that's required. It sounds like you're getting close. I want to echo Mary and Dave's comments. You've just hit this out of the ballpark. It's just amazing how much you've put into this and how much you're giving back to the community. So thanks. And I guess the next step is we'll wait to hear from you in terms of how much money the pro committee needs and what your plans are.
Okay. Yeah, I'm working on trying to get, the best prices possible, and I'll kind of get all the quotes together, and then we can go from there. Appreciate it.
Great. Terrific.
So before we leave this, I just want to talk a little bit about the healing garden. So we did look at that last year, and Joan, I'm looking towards you to help. Maybe you can help me remember. Did we talk to that nursery? Did we talk to the North Creek Nursery? Because I know they gave us a plan and they gave us a quote. I thought we might share that with Greg, but I can't remember if it was the same nursery.
It wasn't Natives. It wasn't, I don't think it was even North Creek. And I think, John, you didn't want to fund it last year, so it just all died.
Yeah, but I mean, if we could share the learning, I was just wanting to share I think, I just was going to share it with Greg. That's all. What we had done, just to have that is something he can look at. Is that possible, Joe?
Greg, I have some comments about the healing garden. The
Sure.
plan was to replace the perimeter timbers. The tops of those buried timbers are in poor condition, cosmetic.
Right.
You really can't do anything to improve it. So the plan was to either replace them in kind or with some other suitable border. So you might want to look into that.
Okay.
That was a long-term look at park improvements.
Yeah, I knew that was kind of a concern too. And when I haven't really gotten into talking with anybody as far as design or anything like that. So I'll get deeper into replacing that kind of material and stuff
sequentially, you really need to do that before you do any plannings, because
well I think what he's saying is the new plan might eliminate those timbers completely.
Could be, but if you replace them or you have to do some significant excavations around the perimeter, you could harm some of the plants. So you might want to work that sequence into your plan.
Let's start with the design, and then you design what you think is appropriate, and then we'll go from there.
The other comment.
Okay, I never got the answer to my question. So Joan, I don't know if you're on mute.
Donna, remember that North Creek Nurseries, they grow plants. They're not landscapers. So I think Greg's going in the right direction, like going to them for plants and going to a landscape designer for the rest of that.
All
I'm asking is, I'm not asking a lot here. I just, if we have the learnings that we had from the work we did before, I just want to share it with Greg. He doesn't have to follow it. I just wonder if we could share it with him.
Sure. Yeah.
Just a comment.
If you have that, maybe you can make it available to Greg.
Will do.
Okay, John, you have a comment?
Yeah, I do. Just to note that North Creek Nurseries provided all the plants that are in the rain garden outside the township building, and they are a good supplier. That stuff they're expensive, but it all worked and grew. So the other comment is on the dog park. You may, as David said, contact London Grove Township. Supervisor would be David Connors. They have a dog park up there, as you saw, but they've had a lot of issues with it, and they've had to close it quite a few times, primarily because of bad behavior by the users. So you may want to talk to them or the township manager up there, because they've had some experience and it's reopened. So they may have some key learnings that would help you.
Okay, yeah, I definitely want to reach out to them and kind of get their input.
Yeah, they closed it a number of times because they just couldn't control what was going on there. So you might want to get that experience. I don't remember any of the details, so I'll let you do that.
Gotcha.
Well, Greg, it sounds like to me you're on the right path. Keep going and come back and talk to us again. Okay.
All right.
So
Will
do you
do.
think?
Appreciate
All
it.
right. Thank you very much, Greg. Can we move on? John, introduce Nan for the comp plan, the next item on the list.
Nan Latimer will report on the comp plan task force July 27th meeting.
Hello. I'm very
Hi,
happy.
Nan.
Hi, I'm very happy to report we had a good meeting and a productive meeting. We worked on the questionnaire, which will probably go online for limited input on a week from Friday. And I wanted to say that we had 9 of the 10 task force members. We had Joan. We had 3 people from Chester County Planning. The new plan format and table of contents was agreed upon. The community workshop date was changed from the end of August to September 15th. And the survey was discussed and changes were agreed upon. In front of the task force, there are 3 or 4 questions that I need to hear back from them that we couldn't resolve. For the board, we have signs that we're going to put up, like political signs, but not political signs around the township. There's 50 of them. And we have postcards that we're going to mail to everybody. And so the board I need to get a sense of the board that you would be all right with spending up to $2,000 for that, for the signs and the postcards and the postage.
So we have a motion in front of us, Nan, and it says not to exceed $1,500.
Okay, well, I have a question. So we had 2 signed people. We had one that was local and one that was in Florida, I think, which is where you're doing your newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yes.
And so I just want to make sure that I don't have to come back in front of the board. I would like to use the vendor that's in Avondale for 2 reasons. One, I'd like to support our local businesses. And 2, he can turn it around and get me signs in 2 days. So if something happens and the dates have to change, I don't have signs that are printed that I have to put stickers over, if that makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense. So I guess the motion will be, John, if you want to read it, the printing of yard signs at a cost not to exceed $2,000. And
Well,
we
it's
can
not
go
just
through
the
that motion.
It's not just the signs, Nancy, it's also the postcards and mailing. It's the whole thing.
Postcards and yard signs. Sorry, it says
right.
that on the motion.
So if we just do not to exceed 2,000, it will be less than that, I promise.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you read that motion, John, please, and we'll vote on it?
I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors authorize the staff to move forward with the design, printing, and mailing to residents of the comprehensive plan advertising postcard and for printing of yard signs at a cost not to exceed $2,000.
I'll second it.
Okay, Nancy.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I don't think we should approve the postcard until we see the questionnaire.
John, actually, there's people here from Chester County. I'll ask Janine to unmute herself if we need to, because what happens is that you picked people to be on the task force, and including you, the board does that. And so if the Board of Supervisors have to approve it, then it becomes a political question. Janine, are you there?
I'd like to say also, Nan, that when we put a team in place, we should empower them. So I trust your team to do the right thing. It's a diverse team, and there's no point in us duplicating efforts. I doubt we would even do as good of a job. So
I'm here, Nan, if you want me to say anything.
Yeah,
The goal,
could you weigh in on that?
yeah, the goal, just so everybody knows, is we've vetted the questions now with the task force, which is made up of a diverse group of people, both township representatives, township committee representatives and residents. And we've gone through one round of vetting questions, and there were a couple questions that were outstanding. So those are being further vetted by the task force. And then after all that is ready to go, our goal was to have the survey up and running by next Friday. And the reason being is because we wanted it up and running in time for the community workshop, so that when the postcards go out, both the community workshop and the survey can be announced at the same time. And also at the community workshop, we can reinforce for people to answer the survey if they haven't already. So it's a timing issue.
Okay.
And
All right.
I don't know if you have any other questions, but thank you.
Thank you, Janine. And it seems to me like we need to go forward to voting on this and to move this project along. It's very time sensitive. It's also going to
Mary?
Looks like we might be losing Mary
side
here.
with our newsletter, our website, everything's going to, I think, come. Am I there?
Yeah, we just
Yes, you're
lost
back.
her.
You're back.
Going.
So do we have any other
Okay.
do we have any other discussion on this?
Yeah, I have a comment. So I hear what Nan and the other lady said about you just is a timing issue. But can we at least get a copy of what the questions are? So I'm not asking for approval, but I just would like to know what's going out to our residents before it goes out. Just as an FYI, could you agree to that?
I don't know whether it's
Well,
my
Donna,
agreement. I think it's an agreement of the board. I mean, it's not finished yet, but yes, I can absolutely, and Janine and I can supply that once it's done, if that's
That would be
the
fine.
pleasure of the board.
But Nan, isn't the postcard to tell you to answer the questionnaire?
Oh, I'm
If
sorry,
it's not
did
the
I miss?
questionnaire.
I'm sorry, do you want the postcard or the questionnaire?
No. So Nan, I am ready to vote in the affirmative for the postcard and the posters. That's not my issue. I
You
would
want
just,
the questionnaire?
Yeah, when you're ready,
Which
I
will be
just like
later.
a copy of the questionnaire when it's ready, just as an FYI.
And right,
Well, I
I
can
think,
send
I
it to you.
appreciate what,
Sure.
I appreciate what Donna's saying. Donna's saying she won't change it. She'd just like to know the questions that are going out. I think that's
Absolutely.
Do that. I'm not there yet, but I will do it. So when Jeannie and I, when it goes live, after we have the task force and everybody has approved everything, I absolutely can send it to every board member. It's not
So what
secret.
we're voting on now, everyone, is to spend the money for the postcard and the yard signs, whatever you
Right.
want to call them. Okay, so can we take a vote on this? All in favor?
When does the board
Aye.
get to see the questionnaire? That's the question.
After, John, when
No,
Nan gets it
when?
ready. As soon as
when?
Nan can get it ready, she will give it to us.
It's not just
All
Nan,
we're
it's
voting
Chester-
on now.
It's Chester County as well. Janine's here. The other lady was Janine, who's Chester County.
I'm sorry, thank
Planning.
you.
So let me tell you that there's no secrets. The people that are on the task force have been selected by the board. We all get along. We've all worked hard. We spent 2.5 hours on it. Janine and I have spent many hours besides that. You definitely can have it. It's not a secret.
I didn't say it's a secret, but the board has the ultimate authority on this thing, so I'd like to see it.
Well, John,
Well, I would
I
disagree.
don't want to
We're-
confuse
We're
issues, but
empowering them, John. So we're going to vote to empower them and they can send it out. And that's what we just agreed with Don. If you were listening, we agreed that we will look at it, but we will not change the questions. Okay. And
But I
so-
have one thing to say. The whole thing, this is kind of the thing for the residents, by the residents. This is a questionnaire for the residents. This is not a questionnaire that comes from the Board of Supervisors. This is a questionnaire that comes from the people of the task force that was selected by the board and we'll get it done. There's 2 board members on there, so they are your representatives. And it's all good.
Now, Nan, let me ask you this,
One more
please.
thing. Let me just say.
No, Nan,
Oh.
we are voting on to spend money to allow you to buy postcards and yard signs.
Yes,
The questionnaire is after the fact. That's what I want to vote on. Can
Thank
you
you.
have the money to buy postcards and yard
thank you.
signs?
Yes, thank you.
Right? That's all I want to vote on.
Yes,
Can we
that
have a
is the
vote,
motion.
yay or nay? The motion is, all right, all in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay. Motion carried. Oh, did you say nay, John? I'm sorry.
Yes, I told you I didn't want to
Okay.
approve it. I told you I didn't want to approve.
We heard you, John. Motion
You wanna-
carries
Thank
4
you.
to
Listen
1.
or not?
Thank you, John. Motion carries 4-0, and Dan will get you
4
that
to 1.
questionnaire.
4 to 1, Mary.
4 to
Thank
1.
you.
Thank you. Sorry.
So if I understand it correctly, I have the okay to order the signs when I'm ready and the postcard and get that out. And then
Yeah.
You
I
have
will
up to-
supply the board from my email. Once Janine and I have the final survey, I will email it to every board member.
Yes.
Thank you.
And
Thank
yes,
you,
and we
Dan.
will not edit it. It is just FYI.
Well, I'll
Okay.
send it to you the same day we're putting it up, I guess.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thanks a
much,
lot.
Dan. We really appreciate your hard work.
Okay.
We really
All
do.
right. Move on.
Okay.
Thank you,
Now,
Mary.
let's move on. Nancy, can you
Yeah.
introduce Sue Walker, who's been very patiently waiting?
I know. I'm very pleased to introduce Sue Walker. She's coming from Congresswoman Houlihan's office, and she'd like to give us a presentation and take any questions we have. And there's no motion involved in this. Welcome, Sue.
Thanks, Nancy. It's good to be with you all. As Nancy said, I'm the district director for Representative Chrissy Houlihan, who serves us in Washington, D.C. and all of the Congressional 6th District, which is all of Chester County now and the southern portion of Berks County. I just wanted to take a moment and thank the board for the time on the agenda this evening. And also, more importantly, thank you for all the good work that you do for Franklin Township. There's a lot happening locally, and I know there's a lot of responsibilities, a lot of decisions that need to be made, and just a lot of hard work that's involved for taking on this really important task of taking care of our township. One of the things that Chrissy has committed to doing while she's been in office is making sure that we are in touch with all of our stakeholder groups. And of course, our municipalities are a big portion of that. So just to kind of frame that a little bit for you all, there are 92 different municipalities, townships, boroughs, what have you, in the Congressional 6th District. It was our intention to be with you all again this past springtime, but unfortunately, as many other events were derailed because of the pandemic, so were the municipal outreach meetings. But as you well know, where there's a will, there's a way. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you virtually, and that's how we're approaching most of these meetings. Additionally, we are trying to find time on Representative Houlihan's calendar to have group meetings with the different municipalities to hear directly your concerns. But my purpose here this evening is just to provide a brief update on what we've been doing here in the district, and also a brief update as to what's been happening legislatively in Washington, D.C. over the last year or so since I was last with you. For those of you who are listening in on the call who haven't been in touch, Representative Houlihan serves on 3 committees. That's Armed Services, Foreign Affairs, and Small Business. The Small Business Committee is an exemption for Chrissy. She's an entrepreneur in her former life. And I'm being facetious with that. In one of her past careers, she worked as an entrepreneur and chief operating officer. Our 3 offices that we have for our congressional district are in Reading, Westchester, and Washington, D.C. Our office hours are 9 o'clock into 6 o'clock. As you are working virtually, we are as well. And most of the time it's a 7-day-a-week work week for us, and our office hours are 9 to 6. The office hours for 9 to 6, Monday through Friday. We will answering the phones during that time and respond back to people within 48 hours or as promptly as we possibly can. Our workforce is divided in 2 different ways. Our Washington, D.C. team handles mostly legislative functions, committee hearings, letters that are being authored, bills that are being co-sponsored. Our district office staff is largely focused around 2 main things, and that's casework. That's where we're advocating individually for people, whether they have a concern with a federal agency like the IRS, Social Security, Veterans Affairs, etc. If there's a way that we can be helpful there, we will advocate for someone on a personal behalf to find a solution to their problem. The other big thing that we do is outreach. If you're wondering what outreach is, it's essentially what I'm doing here with you this evening, working with our community partners, whether they're businesses, educational institutions, agricultural partners, nonprofit organizations, and local government folks. So that's some of the outreach that we do. The one big thing that I would emphasize to all of you here this evening on the council in particular, and the Board of Supervisors in particular, is what we can do with grant assistance. We're well aware that infrastructure is a huge concern for our municipal partners. And if there's a way that we can assist with a federal grant, please reach out to me. Let me know what it is that you're looking for. We are happy to offer a letter of support on congressional letterhead. We've been successful with that for the most part, and no grant is too large or too small. It could be a few $1,000s, it could be a few $1 million, and we've helped with both of those ends of the spectrum as far as funding on federal issues for our municipal partners. That's essentially the crux in a nutshell of what we're doing. I'm trying to be brief because I know your time is valuable. On a constituent services basis, we've closed over 1,500 cases in the last 18 months or so, and we've returned almost $3.3 million to the district. That's in the form of IRS returns that have been unjammed from the log jam, veterans benefits, Social Security benefits, etc. Since January of 2019, we've responded to more than 130,000 calls, letters, emails, etc. In the time since the COVID pandemic began, we're looking at approximately 40,000 responses that we've had. Just to hit a few top notes from the legislative work that has been occurring in Washington, D.C., and again, of importance to local partners, the CARES Act provided funding very specifically for small businesses, which are the backbone of our economy and the backbone of our community, in the form of loans and grants. This CARES Act also provided funding for our educational institutions. So our local school districts were able to get funding that they sorely needed for technological resources in case schools go to an online learning mode, which we're seeing more and more has been the case. So they were able to equip students with things that they need to help them continue their educational opportunities. Additionally, the House of Representatives voted on H.R. 6800, which is the HEROES Act. This was a broad range of measures, including, very importantly, which we heard from our local partners, both in Chester County and in Berks County, for additional assistance for states and local governments. This additional funding also provided another $1,200 rebate for each individual to receive, and modifications in the Paycheck Protection Program. At this point, the HEROES Act is waiting for activity in the Senate. The Senate version, of course, they produced their own version of this called the HEALS Act, H-E-A-L-S, HEALS Act. Unfortunately, this does not provide any funding for state or local governments. And we firmly believe that that's at a detriment. So we're hoping that we can come to some resolution with this. Chrissy stands ready to go back to Washington, D.C. In fact, she will be there this Saturday to participate in some votes regarding the USPS. But looking to find a way, find a solution, and advocate for our partners here back home. On the same topic of infrastructure, Chrissy voted for the bipartisan H.R. 2 Act, which is the Invest in America Act. It has passed the House. Likewise, this is waiting for action in the Senate. This bill would allocate almost $500 billion to help rebuild our highways, bridges, transit, roads, airports, ports, harbors, and doing so with American jobs and American provisions. It would also protect and modernize our energy infrastructure with clean energy, and invest in our school infrastructure as well. And along with that, as we all know, Chester County has one of the highest costs of living in Pennsylvania. It would also invest in affordable housing. So again, waiting for the Senate to act on that. Going to blow past a few other notes here as far as legislation, just due to time, but just to provide you all with an update on the post office. We've heard from a lot of folks within the last few weeks about their concerns about the operational ability of the post office and their concerns. Chrissy is an original co-sponsor of Representative Carolyn Maloney's Delivering for America Act, and as I just said, which will ensure the funding of the post office. She'll be back in Washington, D.C. to vote on this piece of legislation. Chrissy's feeling is that the USPS is absolutely an essential service, particularly during a pandemic when we've never been more than right now dependent on having things delivered to our homes. So whether that's product that we're buying as consumers, whether it is payments that small businesses are getting delivered by mail, or whether it's of someone who's waiting for a vital prescription. Additionally, as we all know, that we have the general election coming up in November, and our state for the first time is allowing folks to vote from home without reason. So these are new processes. The better that the USPS can work for those new processes, the better, because bottom line is we want everyone to have access to the ballot. We want everyone to be able to receive prescriptions that are waiting for them. We want everyone to receive payment if they're a small business owner. We want everyone to be connected. So, and the USPS is an integral part of that connection. As far as updates on the upcoming election, again, we've had a lot of phone calls and emails with folks with questions about how this is all going to work in just a few weeks' time. So we've been in good connection with our county commissioners, both here in Chester County and in Berks County, with the Voter Services Department, and also with the governor's office as well. Bottom line is we want everyone to have access to the ballot, whether they choose to vote in person or whether they choose to vote from home. But the main thing is that they have those abilities to choose and they have access to the ballot. And just a reminder on that, obviously, I know everyone who is listening in on this call right now is acutely dialed into what's happening on a local government level, a state government level, and a federal government level. I shouldn't need to remind you, but just in case you're talking to anyone else, your vote is obviously your voice and your voice should be heard. And that's something that Representative Houlihan fully believes. As far as timelines go, my last shout out would be to the census. It is critically important that everyone within our congressional district is counted, regardless of age, regardless of status. Funding from the government is tied to these numbers. The deadline for participating in the census has been bumped up. It is now September 30th. If you know folks that are here, whether they are students, whether they are here on a work visa, whether they were just born, whether it's a senior that has moved to your home to be with you, please have them participate in the census. It is critically important for that funding for our infrastructure, funding for our senior care, funding for our educational institutions. It is super important. And if anyone needs more information about that, they can contact our office at any time. We're happy to dial you in or link you in to where you can go register for the census and get those numbers counted. The last thing that I will say is we sent out packets of informational cards, or probably somewhere in the Franklin Township office, for when you all are operating in your normal way. Again, information is there, but for folks who don't have access to that, you can reach out to us at any time, and please check our website. That's houlihan.house.gov. If you go to that website, you'll find more information about small businesses and PPP, what we're doing in response to the COVID pandemic, and also how to reach out to us if you need a phone number or if you want to contact us by email. All of those resources are there, and we'll be building out a page in the very near future regarding just specifically for voter services to remind folks of what the timelines are, what the deadlines are, and how to register to vote if they're not already registered, where the polling locations are once those are known, and other information. As this is an evolving process with voting, we'll be updating that constantly as we get information. But thank you all for having me. If there are any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to do so. If not, I think the board there has my contact information, and feel free to give a shout out at any time. But if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Sue, thank you so much for coming to our meeting and giving us all this information. And it's just so wonderful to know you have our back. And if we have questions or concerns, we can contact you. Just love you for that. You and Chrissy both. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you, Mary. We're here to be of service. We're just here. So I know it's difficult. These are very, very challenging times for everyone, regardless of where they're from or what their individual circumstance is. But there's no shortage of need. And we're happy to be here and happy to help in whatever way we can. We don't have all the answers. I wish I had the answers for the IRS. I don't. That's a boondoggle in and of itself, and I don't want to take another half hour of your time talking about the IRS and what we could or could not do there. But if there's any way that we can help with the IRS for people's tax returns, we will do so. Unfortunately, the EIP payments, that is just a logjam that unfortunately there aren't good systems set in place, and that's what we've come to understand. So that's a disappointment. But I hope for most folks listening here that they have received their stimulus payments, and I would also hope that the IRS, as Chrissy does, hopes that the IRS, if there is another round of this, that there are better guardrails and oversight in place to ensure that we learn from our mistakes, essentially. And thank you, Nancy. Good to see you.
Mary, do you want me to take the next issue or?
All right. Anyone have any questions for Sue?
Okay, I'm sorry.
The next issue, yes, Donna. Thank you again, Sue. We really appreciate you coming to talk to us. And Donna, take the next one away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Mary. So I'm here just to talk about that we're going to be putting in the revised MS4 permit, and it was advertised on October 4th in the Daily Local. And so this will be being submitted to the, I don't know who it goes to, but I guess it's DEP. Before we do that, Jen, I was hoping, could you summarize what's changed from the application we initially put in? Just get a high-level summary.
The first application, we excluded ag land because we feel that since all ag parcels or the large farms have a conservation plan in place to deal with stormwater, that there shouldn't be included in our calculations. Well, DEP didn't like that idea, so they told us we have to submit our permit application, including the ag lands. So that's what the permit application for the TMDL, which is the White Clay Creek watershed. And we're still okay with the plans that we have for tree plantings. That will still cover the BMPs that we need to do. So we'll be okay with that. The other part of our permit is the PRP, which flows into the Chesapeake, for waters that flow to the Chesapeake. And we're asking for a waiver for this, because if you have that in front of you, and if you look at the first map that's in that package for the, it says National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, you'll see a map of the township, and everything below the black line in the township map is what flows to the Chesapeake, and all the streams are blue, which means that they are attaining. We're not doing anything to pollute the system. And the only place we can do a BMP in the Chesapeake area is that little pink area that's below the black line. That's the only place we could do a BMP, and we don't have any place that we can do tree plantings or things of that nature. You know, the engineers had suggested some stormwater basins, which we don't want because they're a lot of money to maintain. So we're asking for a waiver, hoping the EP will go along with that.
Okay, yeah, now it's all coming back to me. Thanks, Joe. Just for the public's note, so you guys know what's going on. This is a requirement that we have from the state government to make sure that and it's a good, we want to make sure we don't pollute our streams and to do what we can to reduce pollution in the streams. And as Joan said, we had to include some additional land in our plan, but it didn't require us to do any additional work, which is good. We already have a plan in place, and hopefully they'll buy into that. And the second part, we're asking for a waiver because there's really not much we can do. So we'll see what DEP says, but we're not voting on this. I think it's just a matter of, Joan, you letting us know that we're advertising it, and we'll come back in September, and I guess then we'll vote to submit it.
Well, I do have a comment.
Okay.
I guess Exhibit 3 is in our packet somewhere, and it's to you, Joan, and to the township from the DEP. And there are a lot of deficiencies noted. Just one is that we need the public awareness. Some of these deficiencies seem like oversight on our part, and I'm just questioning whether we need to pay LTL again to do these, or why why there are so many problems. There's a lot not identified, must be corrected, need to be included, correct and resubmit. Yeah, there's a lot of that stuff. So I'm just wondering what went wrong there, or if this is just part of the process that happens to everybody. And then do we need to pay LTL to correct the things that maybe they should have done the first time?
Nancy, is what you're talking about, is that in the packet?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much paperwork. I know it's hard, but this is the packet that says National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's about halfway through it. It's called Exhibit 3. Oh, this was from 2 years ago. Okay. So is this mostly covered then now? This is 2018, but there's all sorts of stuff that they wanted us to do differently.
This is the plan for the Chesapeake, correct? Is that the smaller packet you're talking about?
It doesn't call out one or the other. Oh, let me see. I think it is the smaller packet, so I think it is the Chesapeake, yeah.
Okay. Because we have no area to really do a BMP, and we don't want to take any land from people, we're putting this through asking for a waiver, so we won't have to do any BMP in this area.
Have we ever gotten the waiver for this?
No, this is the first time we're asking for it.
Okay.
And Nancy, you asked a question about if this is like typical. It is typical of regulatory authorities they get kind of anal about everything, and sometimes you lose, you miss what the message is because they have so much extraneous stuff going on, and they love going back and forth, and things take forever. I mean, this is just typical.
Is it
DEP.
Is this oh, sorry, Donna.
No, that's all. I mean, I just this thing just goes. We just go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and
Yeah,
it's not just us. They do. Okay, I'm done, David.
Yeah, because my question on it was, when you deal with the DEP, is it like some regulatory bodies that you deal with where your target is moving, or is the target pretty set and then they just become paperwork? They're just obsessed with what, as Donna put, like really anal about the paperwork, or do we have to hit a moving target with the DEP?
Well, it's that too. It's a moving target also, where I mean, Joan can tell us the story. We had our first calculations when we started this process was we didn't need to do anything. And then we submitted our documents that way, and they came back and said, oh, well, we decided that everybody needs to do something. So in order to make that happen, we're changing the goalpost.
Okay.
So you're dealing with both.
So once we're done with this, there's no saying that we'll come back and have to do it again, or revise it.
Well, we might have to. We might have to if they don't accept.
Yeah.
Even if they do accept that this permit is only good for 5 years. Every 5 years we need to do this.
Right. Okay.
Okay, so we just wait and see. Is that the idea?
Yeah, I'm not suggesting we do anything different. I'm just trying to understand the playing field.
I just want to give you a little bit of information. When our engineers submitted our permit, the original permit to DEP, excluding the farmland, they also submitted a permit for another township that they do work for, omitting the farmland. Theirs got approved and ours didn't. So it's.
Okay.
And
so there's no rhyme or reason.
No.
Yeah. And we don't want to call out them, so.
Right.
So there's no downside to just waiting, right, Joan? And then if they reject it, then we go back and find a plan. Come up with a plan.
The plan is we have to approve this to go into DEP at next month's meeting. And so that's when you need to take a vote.
Okay.
Yeah, the ironic part of this whole regulatory issue is that what we're trying to do is get an exemption for farmland, which is already regulated by the Chester County Conservation District, which is an arm of the DEP. It's their enforcement organization. So why they would override the Conservation District is beyond me, but that's what they do.
So I'm sorry if I'm belaboring. So if we include the farmland, they don't take into account that it's already they're already doing this control.
Right,
They
right.
don't say,
That was the basis for excluding it, because the
right.
Conservation District, which is their enforcement arm, was already regulating it. They all have conservation plans and controls, so
Okay.
it seemed appropriate to exclude it. And then, of course, one township didn't have to, but we did. So that's the inconsistency of it, and that's just the nature of it. We can't do anything other than put the plan in and see if they accept it.
Yeah. Okay.
So Joan, we're at the point now where we just wait and see what they say. Nothing we can do until we get an answer back from them, correct?
After September, we'll be at that point.
Okay.
We have to send this in after the
Okay.
September meeting.
All right. All right, well then everybody, there's no motion here, so how about we
Right.
move on to the next item? The next item is a motion, and it's about our newsletter. But before I take the motion, I'd like to say everyone should have what we're going to put in this newsletter. But just briefly, we're going to introduce new supervisors and favorite faces from before. We're also going to talk about our website, our comprehensive plan. We're going to give information on voting to our residents. We're also going to tell our residents about these wonderful bike trails that are being built in our park. We're going to give information on the newly formed Parks, Recreation, and Open Space Committee. We're going to give information on what you do during the snow season. And Paul Agassi has given us some great historical information. It's going to be in there. We're also going to put in information about stormwater, MS4. We will be we're going to have a shredding day in Franklin Township. Date to be announced, but that'll be in there. There'll also be a calendar of events. And finally, we would like everyone listening to tell us how you would like to receive information. Some people want it in the mail, other people want it electronically. And if you let us know, it'll be great. And all of this we can do for, where's my paper? Just under $1,400. Sharon, our secretary, has done a tremendous amount of work, and we need to acknowledge that. She found a firm that will not only put this newsletter together, they will also fold it, mail it, and give us feedback on which ones get returned to us. And it's all just, the total she got was $1,383, which I think is amazing. That's for 1,500 copies. So what we want with the resolution, which I'm going to read right now, is I make a motion that the board authorizes staff to move forward with the design, printing, and mailing of the Township Newsletter at a cost not to exceed $1,400. Seconded by?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Donna.
You're welcome, Mary.
Any discussion on this?
Yeah, this
Excellent job, Mary and Sharon. Excellent, excellent job.
Thank you, Nancy.
Mary, there's
John, you had a comment?
Mary, there's one item that you might want to consider.
Okay.
And you may not fit it into this one, but a Verizon FiOS update. That's an issue that really vexes a lot of people in the township, and we get lots of inquiries. I've got a note that we had in a newsletter many years ago I could send you, and you could edit it to current standards and contemporary issues, but that's something that people are very interested in.
I would appreciate that, John. I'll tell you, even everything I read off, we're not positive we're going to get everything in, but we're already starting on ideas for the next newsletter, which we're hoping 2 a year. So
I'll send it to you.
that. Yeah, would appreciate that.
The only other quick comment, but I'll mail it to you, is on the tips for snowstorms. We need at the top of the list to have adequate food and prescription drugs in the house.
Okay.
That's the prescription drugs are an issue that a lot of people get in trouble on.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you a note on it.
Okay. Well, like I said to everyone, we're hoping to get all that in. If not, what we can push to the spring newsletter, we will. And if you get new ideas for a spring newsletter, you know, send them to me, send them to Sharon. She's done an outstanding job. We all should compliment her on this. She's really done a great job. So, well, let me get a vote now. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. All right, motion passes 5-0.
All right.
All right, Dave, you're up next, please.
Okay, so I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors authorize the staff to advertise the RFP for a new township auditing firm. Seconded by.
Can we have, Dave, can
I'll
we have
second.
can we have some discussion on that?
Yeah,
I think-
yeah.
I'll
We need the
second
second first, and then
I'll
we'll.
second it.
Okay. And
Okay.
so one of the we have a guest, a special guest here tonight to kind of talk about his perspective. Just for real quick background on this, the reason this came up was Mary and I, as new supervisors, went to a PSATS training course, and neither of us are CPAs, neither of us have any background in this. And the two township managers who were talking about how, best practices that they felt said that changing your auditors on a regular basis is a good idea because it gives you a fresh pair of eyes on the books. And it's not an indictment on the auditor. It's that sometimes people get too close and they kind of use a shorthand and then things slip through the cracks. So having a fresh set of eyes is beneficial. So they used a 5-year term. That was one set of opinions. And then Mary reached out to Mr. Shing to come, and Fred Shing to come and talk to us about his views. He's an actual CPA, so I would like to hear what he has to say on the subject, and he's going to give us his input.
Thanks, David. I am a CPA, practicing CPA, have been since 1982, long time ago. I'm also an elected auditor for this township, along with Jim Johnston and Larry Jones. And that job, frankly, is pretty uneventful, unless an auditor, an outside independent auditor, is not engaged, in which case it falls to us three to perform the audit for the township. A task which I think none of us would relish. We could accomplish it because you always can get things done if you need to. But at any rate, an outside independent auditor is, I think, critical to fair presentation of the township's financial statements for all the outside users of those statements. And I noted at a prior Board of Supervisors meeting, a comment was made that David just echoed about rotating auditors every 5 years. Well, I question that assessment for a couple reasons. I know that there's a general rule that applies to SEC, commission regulated companies, publicly traded companies generally, and they are required generally to rotate audit personnel every 5 years. But I did a little further looking into this, and under the generally accepted auditing standards that apply to governmental agencies, I was surprised to learn that rotation of auditors is cited as being potentially counterproductive in terms of loss of continuity and increased startup costs to the end user, that would be the municipality. I sent to you, Mary, a kind of a 2-page memo that provides the sites for that those authoritative pronouncements. And I sent you a PDF via email, which I hope you can circulate to the other Board of Supervisor membership, just to so they can have a more in-depth idea of what this governmental authority, why they think the way they do. I'll read briefly 2 excerpts from that, if I may. First of all, they advocate multiple year agreements with the whatever auditor is engaged. The idea of a single year contract is frowned upon because I think the thinking is it does not provide the continuity that is deemed essential for a efficient audit to be conducted. And any auditor that is making a proposal to be engaged is going to incur certain startup costs in terms of learning the system that the township has in place. Another excerpt from this site from it's called the Generally Accepted Government Auditing Standard, the GAGAs, as it were. And all this stuff you'll see in this memorandum, it gets to be a real alphabet soup as far as regulatory agencies, but I found one excerpt that kind of captures the gist of it, and I'll quote directly. While there is some belief that auditor independence is enhanced by a policy requiring that the independent audit firm be replaced at the end of each multi-year agreement, unfortunately, the frequent lack of competition amongst audit firms fully qualified to perform public sector audits could make a policy of mandatory audit firm rotation counterproductive. And it goes on to cite the costs involved in an audit firm, a new audit firm learning and needing to reinvent the wheel in terms of their analysis of the existing systems within a township. And as far as the fresh set of eyes, I think that's a very valid concern. It's the underlying reason behind the SEC policy of rotating audit personnel. But and correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it was an April 15th Board of Supervisors meeting when the current independent auditor presented the financial statements. I listened in on that meeting. It seemed to me that the principals involved, the manager and the partner, alluded to the fact that they do have in place a rotational policy where they change the principal from year to year and or every couple years. And I believe they stated the manager on the job. Typically, an engagement the size of Franklin Township is going to involve a partner, a manager, and a staff person that does the field work. And it was my impression from their comments that the firm does have in place a personnel rotational policy. The other thing that is of some concern would be that there's a lot of CPA firms out there. And they do a lot of services. Many of them will offer audit services. It is, in many instances, not their strong suit. And you need to be cognizant of the fact that governmental audit work is a further, more specialized segment of that work. So there aren't a whole lot of firms that do it. There's even less firms that do it cost effectively, but you have to be conscious of the fact that there's a lot of firms out there that would very much like to have the work, but not necessarily possessing the expertise or experience to do the job you expect them to. And I did, some research on this, but a lot of this was conversation with former colleagues and people that were referred to me that are in this area of business. And one thing that several of them mentioned was, switching auditors is not always beneficial because and this is anecdotal, and they really didn't disclose, or they're unable to disclose instances where this occurred unless there's criminal proceedings or something of that nature that's public information, that mayhem tends to occur sometimes after an auditor is changed. In other words, a new firm comes in, they may be unfamiliar with the situation, the systems, and they're trying to operate within a budget, and corners are cut, and things fall through the cracks. So that's the other side of an argument to a fresh set of eyes. I think the fresh set of eyes aspect is important to consider, but it's worth noting that there are more than one ways to achieve that goal. So, but whatever the auditor is selected, I think recent nearby experience has been the real gap occurred at the management level. That means the Board of Supervisor level, where they failed to ask the auditor the right questions. They failed to review what the audit was providing, and didn't push hard enough to get one element that's frequently overlooked. When an audit firm audits the financial statements, typically they also provide something called a management letter, within which they give comments on means by which the internal control system in a municipality can be improved, and also weaknesses that they note in the course of their work. I note in the case of, I reviewed the instance in Kennett Township, where many of the Board of Supervisors said, well, in effect, we didn't know there were any management deficiencies noted. Well, it's because that information, they didn't press hard enough for that information, or more likely, it was withheld from them. So this is something that everyone on the Board of Supervisors needs to be cognizant of when you are evaluating the financial statements, the auditor that produces them for you, and just the general lay of the land. So I hope that the Franklin Township is successful in finding a competent auditor, because I don't want to speak for Jim Johnston and Larry Jones, but I can speak for myself. We'd be pretty lousy and not very cost-effective auditors overall.
Well, Fred, so Mary stepped away for a moment, but it sounds as if we may want to decide whether or not we actually want to move forward with advertising for an RFP. I think we maybe should have some conversation around that.
Yeah, I agree, Nancy. I think we should talk about it.
Yep, and I think one of the questions that I have for Fred is, what would be, besides the obvious, some sort of malfeasance, what would trigger a search for a new auditor? Is it once an auditor is assigned, we live with them until we have a problem, or?
I think as long as they are communicative and responsive to the questions you raise to them, and that they're their services are promptly rendered, that there's no waiting around for 9 months for a set of financial statements that you could be getting within 3 months, and asking them the hard questions. I know in my experience, I've been involved in municipal audits, and it's interesting to me that some of the places with the worst internal control organizations within a municipality, the leadership doesn't really ask any questions about it. They're just happy to have the audit done instead of rolling up their sleeves and saying, well, listen, where could we improve? And what was there any weaknesses that were in our system that you can communicate to us? Now, if a firm doesn't provide that level of service, I think I would be skeptical of their capabilities.
No, that's helpful, because I think you know, and I'm very happy that you came here and spoke with us, because you know, as I said when we started this process, it was pretty emphatic training from the PSATs. You know, this is the best course of action. And then as we started thinking about it and the RFP started to come together, we started some of these questions started coming forward. So I appreciate you kind of giving us a different set of perspectives.
My question would be, what's their authoritative source for the 5-year comment?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about this before the meeting started, Fred. Right. I think you hit it right on the head when you know, that is the standard SEC practice for corporations. So why not apply it the same set of standards to municipality, right? So if it works for a company, you know, a large multinational corporation, it should also work for a small, you know, municipality.
Yeah, the critical difference there is the magnitude of resources applied to it. I mean,
oh yeah, for sure.
Fortune 500 company is going to have a much bigger audit budget and audit committee and so forth than a municipality. I think municipalities are more inclined to be cost effective in their approach. Yeah, I would hope. Well, and taxpayer here especially.
And one of the things that I really liked what you said was about being, you know, asking tough questions, right, and kind of being a self-evaluator. So you know, that's good advice.
Yeah, I think you're going to find out in the aftermath of the occurrence in Kennett is either the township supervisors failed to make inquiries, or the audit firm was prepared the commentary that they could operate on, but it wasn't necessarily communicated to them directly, but you have to ask for it. Yeah, and that initiative should reside with the Board of Supervisors.
I absolutely agree. Thank you.
Yeah. David and the board, just a little bit of experience over the years that we've had our auditor come in here. I usually end up talking to the crew that does the auditing at the end of their audit. And it always seemed to be a different group or a different person. I don't remember ever meeting the same person. Joan could probably have a little better memory than I do, but I think they're alternating people all the time. Joan, you have any comments on that aspect of it?
They do alternate their employees who come in and do the bulk of the audit work. And then in the past, we've had different either partners or Fred, I don't know what you called.
Manager, typically.
Manager, yes. Yeah. Different partners or managers would come in and oversee that work. So it's you see different people for sure.
I feel as if we have been pretty thorough with Barbicane. We meet with them. We take the time to have them come to the board meetings. If I were to take a vote, I would say that, Fred, you've been really compelling and thorough in your assessment, and I would encourage us to, at least for now, continue with them. I wonder if anyone has a different opinion.
No, I agree with you, Nancy. I think we should stay with Barbicane. Fred's given us some really good background information. I don't see a need to change right now. And Fred is our elected auditor. I think Fred would be the first one to tell us something's not right here. Wouldn't you, Fred?
Something that would be very wrong would be to have us three elected auditors have the responsibility to complete an audit timely. And I, as a resident, I would very much like that not to happen. I would like to keep a good thing going. I mean, but really the question would be, as you know, if they're giving you the feedback and free access to information and cooperation, I wouldn't see a need to change necessarily unless you saw a deficiency. And you may want to just see what the cost differential might be in theory, but I would venture to say that if you get a better price, you might not be getting the same depth of knowledge that that the auditors currently have. And even though the staff person is rotated, typically the same manager reviews the job for a 2 or 3 year period, and the partner maybe for longer, for 5 years. But I think it's worth asking them, do they rotate, and what's the rotational situation as it applies to Franklin Township? That way you have a direct question to them and they should give you an answer. You're satisfied with the answer, then that's the fresh set of eyes that is being sought.
So thank you, Fred. So for this motion, do we just table it since we're not really, or do we still have to vote? And
You could withdraw it, I believe, David.
okay. So I will withdraw the motion to advertise the RFP for a new township auditing firm.
And as I said earlier, Mary, I sent you a PDF of my comments in much longer and, sleep-inducing form. But I invite anyone amongst the Board of Supervisors, if you have any questions about this, please feel free to contact me directly.
Great, thank you, Fred. I've been writing some questions down as you've been talking, so I'll pepper them at you. So
very good.
Thank you, Fred.
Thank you, Fred.
Everyone.
Appreciate it.
So John, I think you're next with the Hess Mill update.
All right, I'm going to try to keep this kind of short, but a significant opportunity developed this week around the project schedule, and I'll get into that pretty quickly, but just want to review a little financial information for people listening, that the Conservation District has approved the award of $271,000 to us. And with that funding for a $405,000 project makes the township funding $134,000. So originally we're going to pay $75,000, but the grant was less than we expected, so we're going to end up paying another $60,000 over. But I think the board made the right decision to take the grant money last month and just take it, rather than try to take a chance on getting more next year. So anyway, with the approval of the grant from the Conservation District, the township released the bridge supplier to begin preparing engineering drawings and documents specific to our project bridge. The document package has been received by the township, and Reagan Engineering is reviewing the technical content of the package. Approval to the supplier to begin fabrication is expected by the end of this week, Friday, 8/21. Here's the discussion. I'm going to get through it pretty quickly. There's a strategy issue I want to go over with the board. Recent discussions with Reagan Engineering indicated the bridge could be delivered in 5 weeks. That's 25 working days, with a possible bridge delivery on site at 9/28, September 28th. This is approximately 6 weeks earlier than expected, as our current schedule indicates the bridge delivery at November 6th. So our consideration is, how do we use this bonus period to the maximum advantage? So in the early planning, I was anticipating some schedule improvement in the area because the schedule was based on typical historical intervals, but I did not expect such a big improvement. So we don't have all the answers tonight, but I want to put some of the ideas out for you to think about a bit. The primary advantage to moving the bridge completion date from 12/1, December 1st, to something much earlier. As you recall, our primary concerns was finishing the bridge, getting close to winter weather, especially if unknown weather and it is extended to finish the bridge in later December. So here are the things we need to think about, the 6 items here. Once the bridge fabrications are approved and released, we need to develop an actual delivery date. Negotiate that with the bridge supplier, Reagan Engineering. We think it's about 5 weeks, but it could be 6 weeks, maybe 7 weeks, but we'll still be better off. So we need to get that specifically nailed down. And once Ron sends the approved drawings to the bridge supplier at the end of this week, we should be able to establish that point pretty quickly. So that's the first thing. Secondly, can Yardworks manage the early start date, meaning labor, material, equipment, rental, and other things that they need? Number 3, can PECO manage the required electrical outages earlier? We don't have to confirm that. And can we obtain a PennDOT approval for the detour plan earlier? And the next one is kind of a question to our staff. Are there any issues related to the township staff and management for an earlier start? Cash flows, notifications, anything else you could think of? And of course, the last is any items by the board that you might think about that we should consider about trying to move the schedule up. So it's open for discussion at this point.
John, I just want to say that, you know, I hear what you're saying, and if we can try to get away from that December date, I think it's going to be better all around. We don't know what the winter's going to be like. We don't know what crazy, I mean, our weather's already crazy, but we don't need it to be crazy and cold. So I know it's in good hands. If there's a way to get this thing done sooner, I know you'll figure out a way.
Although
yeah, I mean, I guess, John, I don't know what would be I'm sorry if I missed it, but what's the downside? The downside of moving it up is we're not sure if we can align all of the resources we need. Right?
Yeah, I'm not ready to say we can move it up to where the bridge supplier's delivery date would help us. We need to make sure that all our other resources, Yardworks, PECO, PennDOT, can comply with an earlier date. It's just developed, I mean, really yesterday. So we've had really no real time to talk to these individuals about what they can do. So I think we'll firm that up pretty quickly in the next week or so, and then come back to the board.
So your experience, we should be able to get PECO and PennDOT to commit before September in a month?
Well, you know, the December date is the finish date, but their performance dates are earlier than that. So we'd have to just say to them, can you tolerate a date that's 4 or 5 weeks earlier than we originally told you? And my guess, it's probably going to work out, but we don't have those answers yet.
Yeah. Okay.
So for now, it's just good to know, but there's no decision we can make. It's just we got to wait till you get information, and then we'll learn more.
Well, that's good news.
It's just an update. I'll send you this stuff in written form. I just kind of typed it up a little while ago, so so you can see it. Only other note about it is recently Ray Dannenhauer, she's the longtime property owner, provided some old photos of the existing bridge, and that's prior to the existing bridge, excuse me. And the photos revealed the presence of a potentially large concrete foundation that will have to be removed. So removal potentially costly, requiring heavy lift and some concrete braking equipment. We don't know what that is yet, but we just saw some evidence in an old photograph that's got us a little concerned. Just a point of information at this point. Okay,
I just want to let everyone know, in case you haven't noticed, that Mary is missing, and Jeff has spoken with her. She's trying to get back into the meeting, but she's not here for me to admit her. So I don't know what's going on.
All right. Well, I'm gonna send this stuff out in an email probably after the meeting or early tomorrow morning so everybody can see it. I just apologize. I just typed it up a little while ago as I start putting the thoughts together. So. Okay, that's good news because it could take the pressure off of the whole project schedule, getting this kind of movement. So
Yeah,
several good things. The fact that the bridge came in much lower in cost, which is a big benefit also. So
two things that rarely happen: cheaper and faster.
Yeah, that's been my project experience. Rarely do you get a bonus like this. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And John, I know you know this, but even if you can't bring it back to September 28th, maybe they can agree to another date. Maybe it's October 10th. I mean, it's just a matter of figuring it out.
That's exactly the point, because Bron said 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Well, when he actually talks to them, maybe it's 7 weeks, but that's still better than, taking it all the way out there at December. So we'll get a big benefit one way or another out of this, I think. So
I agree. Okay, so Nancy, Mary's not here. Is it okay? Are you okay if I just go on with the road just to keep things moving?
Yes,
Is that all right?
thanks, Donna. Yep.
Okay. So what I like to do, I hope folks have looked at the sheet that Joan has put in our packets. I think it's a fantastic sheet where she lays out our projects and how we're progressing against each project, how much money we've spent, how much money we still have to spend. And based on my read of this document, and I'm also using an email sent out by Joan, so Joan's already figured this out. I'm just going to parrot it. We have some good news and some not so good news. So the good news is that we have saved $36,614 on the Elbow Lane project, and I thank Jim DeRazio to that and for the work that he does to make sure that he doesn't do more than is necessary. So because of that, we have a savings. But on the other hand, so that was the good news. On the other hand, we have found out that Auburn Road by where Gourmet is has some issues, and I think we've actually talked about this at a previous meeting. And some coring's been done, and some more good news is that it's not going to be as crazy to fix that as it could have been. And so based on a calculation that Joan has done, if we take the part of Auburn Road that we were going to do, which originally cost, I think, like $78,000, and add to the part of Auburn Lane Road that needs to be done, we come to a total of $103,798, which is about $22,000 more than we were planning just to spend on the one part of Auburn Road. But as I said before we go back to the good news, we have that $36,614 that we can use to cover that $22,000, and it still leaves us $14,000, which we can use towards dealing with some other bad news we have, which is some water damage areas. There's some water damage on Hillcrest, South Guernsey, and Franklin Road. So I know we don't have a motion with this, but I actually think we have to make a decision because based on Joan's email, we have to decide if we do want to move ahead with both parts of Auburn because, as John was saying, we're going to be putting our attention to the Hess Bridge maybe sooner than later. And so we don't have another month to wait to make the decision on Auburn. And I'm hoping we can make that decision tonight, give Jim the okay to do both parts of it. We know we have the money to cover it and get that done before they start working on Hess Mill. So I'm not gonna make a motion, I'm just gonna put it out there, and if you guys decide that's something you would consider, maybe then I can try making a motion. So let me open it to the board to discuss.
I would vote yes on that.
Yeah, I'd be a yes on it. I did attend the recent inspections, and I think Mary attended the first one with me. And that upper section of Auburn is really severely cracked. And the concern we had at that point, looking into one of the holes, is it looked like we were looking at the base and that there wasn't any intermediate asphalt layer. So we went ahead and cored that thing on Monday. And that was a plus because we pulled those cores out of there and the road cross section up there looked really good. We had the right base, you had a heavy intermediate asphalt level and a 2-inch wear coat. So that road could just get the standard remedy, which is just a mill and overlay. We don't need to do any underneath upgrades as I thought we might have when we looked in that hole. So that's the benefit of coring, tells you exactly what's under there. And so we really would have to bring that road up. We would have the lowest cost solution remedy to it, and it would be a permanent one because all the underlying conditions are good. Of course, just the other strategy thing, we didn't work on that road for a long time because Gourmet would have to improve a portion of it for their turn in and driveway. But right now we know that Gourmet is still tied up in court over the deed restrictions. So really nobody knows where that's going. Secondly, I know from secondhand information that the mushroom business is not doing well right now because they're not selling mushrooms to restaurants, not only in the area, but all these mushroom guys are big exporters around the country. So they're not doing well. So his original business plan to build that facility, we really don't know what that would be, but the economic situation doesn't, in my mind, favor a quick return to that business plan. Just my observations.
I think we just can't keep waiting, as you say, John. There's too many unknowns, and the road is pretty bad. So I think
you're absolutely right, Nancy. I agree with you. We did the right strategy by waiting, but it just came apart on us. So the problem with that road is that it's so severely cracked that in a severe winter, you could tear up a big section of that roadway in the middle of winter and you could not fix it. It'd just be awful. We had that happen to us once before on Peacedale Road early in my time on the board, and it was not a pleasant experience, I could tell you.
Right.
So,
Mary, you're back. So Dave, what do you think?
No, I agree. I think that, to John's point, we waited long enough and the roof's leaking, we got to fix it. So we should fix it.
So Mary, we've just been talking about what to do about Auburn Road. And I think we're all at the point where we think we should take the money we saved on Elbow Lane and put it towards doing all of Auburn and just getting that done. So I think what Donna is saying is if we do all agree to go that route, we should probably take a motion and so that Jim can just get started on it.
Yeah. So Donna, could you craft a motion and?
Yeah, I'm going to try. So I make a motion.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You want me to try?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll try, and then you guys can tell me if I got it wrong. So I make a motion to improve both sections of Auburn Road from Churchill near Gourmet as one section, and the North Bank to the 2017 paving limit as the second section. Does that help? Is that okay? Do I have anybody?
I believe that's correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
Joan, are you okay with that?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, I'm fine with that.
You had the amount of money in it, Donna?
So yeah, I can say so it's an estimate. So it was $103,798. Should I go with $105,000 just in case we're off, or?
Is that what it is? I'm looking at, Joan, how much is the total amount we're estimating?
The amount that Donna stated.
$103,798. I was just going to give it a little bit more. I could make it 105,000.
Yeah.
Okay. So do you want me to try again? So I make a motion to improve both sections of Allborn Road, section 1 being from Church Hill near Gourmet, and section 2 being from North Bank to the 2017 paving limit, with the amount of money not to exceed $105,000. Can I have a second?
That. Yeah, I'll second it.
Thanks, Nancy. Great. Okay. Any more discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All against, say nay. Great. So Nancy, I just want to turn it back to you because I think you wanted to make some comments about the work the staff did during the storms.
Yeah, I wanted to recognize a couple of people. I mean, Jeff called me Friday night I can't even remember. I think it was the second storm, but Jeff, honestly, I can't remember. And Jeff and Harold Walls and Jim and his crew basically spent that evening, as well as probably part of the weekend, trying to get our roads clear. And with these two storms, it's just been insane. And I want to personally thank everyone who jumped in and gave up their time to make that happen and to really go above and beyond in a lot of ways. So thank you to all of you. You know, there were a lot of big problems and residents, you know, sometimes there are emergencies and people have got to get through. And so you guys just jumped on it and made it happen.
Yeah, I think one of the things that just for the residents, those who are near the storm damaged locations, you obviously see the issues that happened. It was quite a storm. And Jeff did take a lot of really good pictures over that course of the week and just talking about the road crews and clearing out all the damage. Hopefully maybe we can get something up on the website just to kind of show the amount of work that needed to get done in order to clear the roads off and kind of give folks a perspective of that damage. It was pretty significant in a very short period of time. So thanks, Jeff, Jim, everybody in the township office. It was a good job.
Thank you.
Just a point of information.
Thank you.
Is that I measured the rainfall in both of those storms, and the hurricane gave us 8 inches in a bucket.
Yeah.
But the second storm, which was a line of thunderstorms, gave us almost 4 inches in an hour and a half. So by far, the intensity of the second storm far exceeded the hurricane. So Ron Reagan had indicated he hadn't seen a storm like that for a long time. So anyway, it was significant. It did a lot of damage on our property and other people's property.
Crazy times. I'm going to have us move on just because I know Mary has a goal. I don't know if we're going to hit it, but we're going to get close.
Hey, I'm back, so, Donna. I'm back. I hope
know.
You can move on to the next about the HARB.
Yeah, I don't know how much help I'm going to be because I'm going to probably turn it over to Paul. But there's an opening on the HARB, and we're looking for volunteers to fulfill that opening. Paul, do you want to comment? Is there something special someone's looking for?
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have a live body at the moment, and people don't generally beat down the doors in order to join the HARB especially. But I am going to speak to the members of the Historical Commission that do not also serve on the HARB. We've got a situation where we've got extensive overlap, and see that if one of them might at least be willing to assume Tracey's position on a temporary basis, allowing us a little more time to do that. Beyond that, you know, I'm happy to entertain interested residents who would be willing to serve. Certainly, it's helpful if they have experience living in a historic house or historic district, or it's also helpful if they have say, a construction background or architectural background, since that brings a perspective to it that not all of us have. Frankly, I am just an amateur at this, to be honest.
You're doing a good job, so you must be doing something right, Paul. So I don't think there's anything else we can do, Mary, besides put it out there. Is there any other comments anyone else wants to make?
I agree, Donna. We'll just put it out there and hopefully we get some volunteers and then we can make a motion to approve them.
Right. The one thing I would like to note is that, and this is a thing that admittedly is not appealing to everyone, that you do have to review and make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors concerning projects that residents are undertaking. And sometimes the meetings are relaxed and sometimes they're not.
Don't scare them away, Paul.
I don't want to. I know it sounds like that, but I think that people need to be aware that this is the case.
Yeah.
Frankly.
Yeah.
And some of the meetings are really very smooth, and we're just checking off the boxes.
So
occasionally, I think we generally have good outcomes. Whether people start out deciding that we're just making their lives miserable or not. As the supervisors know, we generally try and work for a resolution that benefits both the property owner and the historic district.
Okay. Okay.
Paul, John Auerbach, I got one question here.
Sure.
As I recall, there's a qualification that you're looking for a HARB member, some real estate experience or something?
Yeah, a real estate experience is a good thing. We've got, Nan has been serving as a real estate person. Presently, she's not as active in the real estate industry. So if there's someone out there with real estate experience, and I would point out for real estate and for the architectural position, which is presently being filled by Chuck, these are specialty skills, and so the person need not come from the township in order to serve. Although, again, they often aren't beating down the doors to serve in this position in another township, to be honest.
I thought there was some specific real estate type of experience you're looking for. I just recall that from the past when we looked for somebody before.
Yeah, you're looking for somebody with I think it's a broker's license.
Yeah, I think you might want to just let the board know what that requirement is. So as we're poking around the area, we look for that qualification if it's there.
Yes. So anyway, I'll double check on that, but I believe it's a broker's license. This is not just serving on, not just being a real estate agent per se.
Okay. It's in the charter, I believe, somewhere.
It's in it. Yeah, it's not charter. It's the ordinance. Yeah. But okay. I will get the specifics on that out to everybody so that that's clear.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I'd like to back everybody up a step. Joan sent us out a memo from Ron Reagan. It's about storm damage. We want to know if we can approve Jim's estimate for storm repairs. And we're talking about the memo about Guernsey Road, Hillcrest Road, a down tree on Hillcrest Road, and Franklin Road. We need to discuss that and approve the repairs, which Ron Reagan thinks what Jim bid is reasonable. Guernsey Road, $3,915 to do the repairs necessary from the storm damage. It's a culvert at the end of Guernsey Road that washed out. So we need to say yay or nay.
Mary, I did mention this when I went through the discussion for Auburn, that we have $14,000. So we have the money from Elbow Lane to cover what we needed for Auburn, but once we take that, we need like $22,000. Once we take that out, that left us was $14,216, and that can cover most of the water damage work that needs to be done.
Except Hillcrest Road alone is $13,172.50. Right. So we need to. I'm fine with that $14,000, but we need to approve a little bit more, like What are we
Correct,
looking at
right.
here,
I think,
Joan?
I agree with you. We didn't actually do a motion that approved the water damage work. I just gave the sense that we have most of that money. We're gonna need like another 5,000.
Well, I guess that, no, more than that. But I'm looking at 21,000 for Guernsey, Hillcrest Road and Hillcrest Road for the tree.
I didn't see 20. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
about
I saw
4,000 for Guernsey,
3,915.
close to 4,000 for Hillcrest Road. That's 8,000. Hillcrest Road again, 13,000. So that's 8 and 13 is 21. And how much did you say we had left over, Donna?
Oh, wait a second. I thought Hillcrest was 13. I thought South Guernsey was 3,915. Did I?
Yes, it is 3,915.
And then
Hillcrest, I have
and then
two
Franklin was
prices.
2,460.
I have two prices here. I have 13,172.50 for the
Right.
stone retaining wall, and then for the
Right.
tree, $3,800.
Okay, I didn't see.
The
I
tree
missed
and
the
the
tree.
erosion.
I didn't see the tree.
It's in the memo
my-
from Joan, and it's
Yeah,
from Ron Reagan to Joan.
Mary, I just missed the tree. I didn't see that in my list. I was looking at the actual printouts, and I didn't see the 30. I didn't see that amount of money. So, okay.
Okay, I guess what we need to do is, can we authorize Jim to go ahead with these repairs? I think the question is Franklin Road. Jim has said it'll be about $2,400 every time we
Right.
get a washout, or we might have a lot of washouts.
Yeah.
But I think we have to repair Guernsey, Hillcrest Road, the stone retaining wall, and definitely the large tree. So how do we want to vote on that?
So I just have one comment on Franklin Road. I've been asking Joan a couple questions about that. How often, how much money do we have to spend on it, et cetera. At this point, we get a fair amount of money from the Conservation District and from Liquid Fuels. I think we need to keep repairing it. I don't know enough about the private property there, or what needs to, what the impacts could be of maybe, closing it or using it just for walking and trails. But I think for now it's manageable to just keep it going. And Joan's going to just do a little research and look at some of the past spend, how much we spend year on year, some issues that we need to make sure we would understand, and just keep going with it. Just keep it going for now. So I would be in support of paying that.
Okay, and I'd also like to say that before we got the grant from the Conservation District and did the major repairs there with the inlets and the pipe and everything, that road washed out with every rainstorm, and we would have to go back frequently. But since we did that work, we got the grant money and put in the pipes and the inlets to handle the rainwater. We haven't had to do a lot. I mean, we had 2 major storms, this time. I mean, Ron Reagan said it was a 1,000-year storm. So
it is a steep road, but I don't think there's anything we can do but fix it for now. I don't want to make a hasty decision. I think we just need to keep going.
Yeah, and I don't want to pile on there, but I don't think this is a problem that's year over year. I mean, this was a major water event that
Exactly.
I think if it's $2,400 every year, if we're having this conversation next year again about Franklin Road, we might need to start talking about Franklin Road as a separate conversation. But I don't think now would be an appropriate time to just say, we're not doing it, we're closing the road. So,
okay, then can I ask this? Can we tell Jim to go ahead and do these storm repairs that Ron Reagan has said he thinks they're fair amounts? Guernsey Road, $3,915, Hillcrest Road, $13,172.50, and Hillcrest Road, the large tree, also some erosion. What else are we going to do? Existing riprap, $3,800. Can we say yes, Jim? Go ahead and do these repairs.
I would vote yes. I would make a motion. If we need a motion, I think we should make a motion. I say yes.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yeah, so make a motion to fix the road flood damage as assessed by Ron Reagan.
Ron Reagan. Okay. Who wants to second that?
I'll second that.
All right. Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Nay? Good job.
Okay.
I'm sorry I missed that, Mary.
That's okay.
I'm
No,
glad you brought it back.
we got it done. That's what matters.
Yeah,
I
and-
guess the next item is the digitization of file records. Nancy, can you start that discussion?
Yes, it's something that I've heard about for the past couple of years, but I never actually asked any questions. And so recently, I've learned a lot more about it. I want to really just share it with the public. And then at some point, we may need to come by and make a motion on what exactly we were going to spend on it. I think what happened was many, many years ago, the project got approved in terms of the hardware, the software, and training. And that was in 2008. And I think the total amount was like $35,000. And then the team just started using a part-time employee to get the work done. It's scanning all of our old records to put them in the computer system. So it's very important to do. All the townships are doing this. My takeaway would be that going forward, I think we need to be very public. We need to get public approval each year for what's being spent. It's a fairly significant amount of money. And the way we would like to operate going forward is that nothing gets spent unless it has public visibility. So this is a project that I think nobody could give an exact number, but I think we're probably up to about maybe $130,000. I think we still have like 800 hours to go. So what I'd like to wait for is when you guys can tell us how many hours you think we need, either for this year or for the completion of the project, come back and let's vote on it. So it's visible, it's public, and we have it on a project list, and we keep tracking how much we're spending against how much we committed to it. So just creating way more visibility around it.
Right. And I agree, Nancy. I mean, I agree with you about the visibility, but I also agree, as you've already said, that it's an important project. We have to get these things, not only the plans and the documents, but also we have to create a directory so that when someone goes back to look for them electronically, they can find them. So I think it's important, but we got to make this thing more visible.
Right.
Yeah, there's another benefit to this besides, retaining our records and making them more accessible. Is one of the long-term objectives of doing this was to reduce the number of file cabinets in the meeting room. The expectation is that some of the reduced record volume in combination with some additional storage area in the meeting room would make the meeting room larger and more accommodating to residents. That's kind of a longer term goal we had set down many years ago, to try to get all the file cabinets out of the room and make it look like a meeting room and not a storage area. So just an additional benefit of this.
Mary, anything you want to add?
No, just having done some research on this, I think over the course of time that Eileen has been doing these records, and she does have a knowledge of our township, which is very beneficial to us. I think we're pretty much on target with her, and I would like to see her finish it. And if they think she can finish in 18 months, we'll revisit it. We'll put a cap on it. We'll let everyone know how much more we have to spend. And then I think we will have a project completed that a lot of townships will be very envious of. They're trying to get it done, but they don't have the manpower or the money to get it done. So I think we're really ahead of the game, and hopefully it will be done soon. And we'll wait to hear from Joan and Eileen how much longer we have to do this. So that's that.
You're next,
Any
Mary.
more comments on this? Otherwise, we're going to move on. I'm going to take the next one, the website operating policy. Mark was kind enough to do up a website operating policy. Donna and I discussed it, and Donna added some comments, pretty much like timeframes on how long something should be on the website and how, when it should be taken off. And everybody has that, and I'm sure everybody read it. So I think what we need to do is decide, do we want to go with just what Mark said, or do we want to add in Donna's comments, or you have comments of your own? And then we'll do I think hopefully next month, we'll do a final website policy, and that's what we'll adopt. And I'm hoping, Mark, you will, take all our comments and do the final policy. How's everybody else feel about that?
Fine. I mean, my 2 cents is I think Mark's done a good job. There's nothing that jumps out at me as not being appropriate, so I would be fine with it as is.
How about you, Dave? How do you feel?
No, I think this is appropriate. When you talk about any organization, whether it's a municipality or whatever it is, a commercial venture, you have standards and practices with what you can put up on a website to kind of keep it into devolving into chaos, and people have a clear understanding of what goes up and what goes down and how often, how long things stay up there. So yeah, I think it's completely appropriate and in line with what you should be doing when you have a website.
John, I want to ask you, how do you feel about it? Because Donna and I have already discussed this.
Yeah, we love it.
Yeah, we do.
I'm muted. Okay. My only question is do we need board approval to put everything up and down? Is that the plan, that every month we're going to approve stuff going up and down on the board?
No. I think what we want to do is we want to get a policy in place, and then we want to hand over the keys to who will put things on and take them off. And if it's a routine item like, we're having a shredding event, that's fine. If it's something more controversial, then whoever we give the authority to, whoever we give the keys to, like someone in the office, I'm assuming, they come to the board and said, how do you feel about this? Should I put this on or shouldn't I put it on?
Right,
the idea is, John, have a policy in place so that if we ever need it, it's there and we don't have to get a policy after the fact. That's the only goal here.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Now let's see. All right. Now I do have a question here about a recent issue. The open space program information was arbitrarily moved from the website without board discussion. So my question is, who authorized the removal and what are the reasons and motivation for it?
I'll start. I was asked to look at it. I looked at it, and in my view, it looked not strictly information based. And our public dollars should go to facts and not interpretations or situations where we, are not respectful of past boards or current boards. So I felt as it was written, I didn't think it was appropriate. I'm not really sure who changed it, but I think it was appropriate to change. We didn't have a policy at the time.
The township manager took it off on somebody's request. We don't know who that was. Who did that?
Well, do we know who put it on originally and why and what approval they got?
At one point, I put it on there.
Did you get board approval?
No, it wasn't required then, but now we have.
As of tonight, it is required, right? But not
right,
before.
All right. So what's the board approval on taking it off? And it was taken off arbitrarily without any board action at all. The information was historical in nature and provided a background information about the program, costs, and current state. Very historical stuff. So I don't really understand how it was inappropriate. It's important information that people should be aware of related to a program that costs that much. It costs as much or more than our road program. So people ought to at least understand how we got where we are, what we own, what properties we have, what the costs were, and how they're obtained.
I tell you what, I'll offer to rewrite it and then I'll review it with the board.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. I think what we need to do is we're talking about a website operating policy.
I'm still unhappy with this removal. I think this
Okay,
behavior.
Well, Nancy's going to work on it, so I appreciate your input. And Nancy will work on it, and we'll go back, we'll revisit that next month. But right now,
I don't see anything wrong with what's there right now. We should just repost it.
Well, that's not what we're discussing though, John. We're discussing this website operating policy, and we want to take a motion, yay or nay for that.
This is a critical item to this policy here. So the policy is going to affect this particular item. So I think it's appropriate to discuss it.
Well, I think, John, after we vote yes or no to the website operating policy, that would be an item that would follow this. Once we adopt the policy, that would be an item that we put on or don't put on. The person who has the keys put it on, or it comes before the board. Like, I think this is what you're talking about would be after this motion we're at right now, the operating policy. We just want to have a policy for now. And then items that go on or off would be after the policy.
I'm still unhappy with the arbitrary nature that was used to remove it. I'm just
okay. All right. I appreciate your input, John. But can we take a vote on this? I'm going to read the motion. I make a motion the board adopt the website operating policy as presented at tonight's meeting. Can I have a second on that?
I'll second.
I'll second that.
Okay. We had our discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed, say nay. All right, the motion carried 5-0. John, you have the next item on the agenda, which is a transition to the cloud, and Joan has offered to give her expertise on this, if you could introduce her.
All right, here's, we did make the transition to the cloud. It wasn't too difficult for me. I was functional within, I don't know, we went down Thursday last week and I was functional on Monday morning. So overall, not bad. I did have to upgrade a computer to Windows 10, which anybody needs to do that. You can do that for free. But that did work out fairly well. So I was pleased with the transition to it. So Joan could talk about it further. I don't know what other people's experience was, but it was a little disruptive late last week and early this week. Joan, go ahead.
To say it was disruptive is mildly, you don't realize how much you need your computer. But it did go fairly well. It took Pegasus longer than they thought. They said sometimes things go fast and sometimes they don't, and we were one of the slow ones. But we have a fixed cost with them, so that's okay with us. So everyone has a cloud account, and all of our email is out there on the cloud. And because we're a government, Microsoft keeps our email in the United States. It's not sent to places overseas. So that's something good for us. And it's going to save us some money in the long run because we're not paying for backup servers or to replace servers. Let's see. We have our scanner is hooked up to the cloud, so all the scanning we do now is going out to the file cabinet in the clouds. You think of anything, Jeff? So far it's working.
Joan, speaking of those files and the township files, can you give us some links to find access to that? That's always been a difficult thing to get into those other drives.
Okay, I will talk to Pegasus about that. I think, Mary, you and I were, or Nancy and I, who was it? Was it you? We were talking about that today? No, it was Nancy. We were talking about having access to that. So it's something we have to work on with Pegasus to see if it can be done in a way that our files are always safe. It would be okay for the supervisors. It shouldn't be a problem.
I would expect that the option's going to be read only, so you can't do any damage.
Okay, I will reach out to them and check on that.
Yeah, let us know about that.
Okay.
All right, thank you, Joan. I guess the next item, Nancy, we need to talk about the purchase of a new truck, possibly. If you'd introduce Jeff, I'm going to give him back his headphones and let him discuss what he's found out about getting a new truck. Okay, Nancy? Thank you.
Yeah, so, life is full of surprises. This week, the truck had some serious problems, the township truck. Jeff told me it is quite old. I think it's either 2014 or 2004, 2006. I can't remember, but it's been around quite some time. Jeff, you can tell us more. And so Jeff has looked into fixing the truck versus replacing it. And Jeff, I'll let you take it from there.
Sure. The township truck is a 2006. And over the past week, I had noticed a smell of gas. It was very overpowering in the cab of the truck. And then also some issues with the stabilization and the driving. So I took it to Tim Richards. He's a local mechanic here. So the fuel lines from the gas tank to the engine would need to be replaced. Joan has that quote, but it's right around $1,700. Tim also had a concern about the cab mounts to the body frame itself. And he had recommended that I contact London Britain about that, as they have had similar work done. And they recommended a person by the name of Dave George. And I also went a step further and checked him out with Armin Frankhart, and they both speak very highly of Dave George. And he does do overflow work for a few of the car dealerships. He looked at it at Tim Richards, and it's his assessment, just with the rot underneath, that that the estimate, and it is only an estimate, to fix that would be $1,247. This doesn't have, this would not be fixing the body. There's a lot of rot around the driver's side rear wheel well and along the side. I asked them for their assessment if the truck was worth fixing, and I was told that even if it is fixed, the truck has approximately 2 years of life left in it because there's so much rot with it. And currently, they don't feel it's safe to drive. One of the big reasons is because of the gas leak itself. And secondly, there's so much rot in those cab frame mounts that they felt if whoever was driving it got hit from the side, or there was an accident where the truck would roll, that it would be very unsafe for the occupants. And right now, they feel if the truck is fixed, it's worth no more than $3,000 on the low side, $3,500 on the high side. So we tried to pick the middle there.
So Jeff?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm thinking, I don't know who would think it's worth fixing the truck. Is there anyone who would rather fix the truck than get a new one?
No, I've got a lot of experience doing those kind of repairs on stuff that I've had in the past, and that thing's too far gone. And if you make those repairs, somebody looks at it, they're unlikely to want to buy it. I'm surprised that you could even get over $3,000 for it. So yeah. I'd be in favor of a new truck. I wouldn't put any more money into this thing. I think you need to just salvage it as scrap.
I think the question really for Jeff is, you need a certain amount of capability within the vehicle, and we just want to make sure that the right amount of money is approved so you can get what you need.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
I don't think, the pictures, we don't have for those who are on the meeting from the residents, the pictures of the truck and the underside of the truck. It's disintegrating, and I certainly wouldn't want to drive around in that truck myself, let alone, an employee of the township. So I think it's, I know it might sound like we're being glib about this decision, but that truck is about to just fall apart on its own. So we should just try and get him a new vehicle as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
I guess the question for me though, is it a new vehicle, or could it be a used vehicle? Does it have to be a brand new, spanking new vehicle? Can we explore what's out there? I'm not looking for a 6-year-old vehicle, but maybe a vehicle that's a year old or 2 years old that we could get at a decent price, as opposed to spending $33,000 on a new vehicle. I just want to put it out there.
Well, I think if it lasts 14 years, it's worth buying a new vehicle. And so if that's what if that's the number of years we're getting out of it, I'm very comfortable buying a new vehicle. I think it's well cared for. You know what's happened to it. You know its history. For me personally, that's what I would do with my money. And so I think, you know, I would vote to get a new vehicle.
Yeah, Donna, I think that looking for a used truck is a difficult thing because those trucks are really sought after and the used prices are really pretty high.
Okay.
I'm not sure we are going to save very much by going to a year or 2-year-old vehicle, and you got to find one. And there's not a lot of them around. People want those things and they keep them.
Okay.
So,
Well, thank you. At least you thought about it, so I appreciate the
yeah.
the fact that you thought about it. Thank you.
So
So Jeff, what do you need from us now? Do we need, I mean, I don't think we need to tell you what you need in a truck. You'll look at that, you'll talk to other townships, etc. Do we need to put a cap on now so that you can get started, or what's the thinking?
Well, I would like to see you put a cap on it, and it would allow us to work with co-stars. The only unfortunate thing with co-stars right now is the checking that I have done. I've been told by 2 different dealerships, a Chevy and a Dodge dealership, that with their inventory, they claim their inventory is very low, and to get the equivalent of what we have now, it would take 10 to 15 weeks. They would have to build it. We did look at some local dealerships, one of them being Diver Chevrolet in Wilmington, and they do have a truck in stock. That's a 4-door cab truck. I believe it's what we need. The only downside to this is it's approximately $2,000 more than if we were to buy it by co-stars. But the downside.
Well, look at it this way, Jeff. If you have to use your own truck for everything, we're going to have to be paying you a mileage. Sure. I think we quickly go through that, so that doesn't bother me too much. Because
and the other
15 weeks.
I would hate to have, you know, us say we're not going to spend $2,000 and then you get sideswiped in a
Right,
car that's
that too.
bomb.
This is your wear and tear.
So I guess the only question that I have is, and this is just, I don't know what the word is, procedural question, and maybe it's for Mark, is, you know, we are part of this co-stars group, or I don't know if we're part of it, but this is what we use for municipal purchases. Do we need any special permission or is there special requirements if we were to go to a private dealership on our own and just buy a truck?
Well, the issue was I discussed it with Joan and Jeff just a few hours before the meeting. You know, as everyone knows, the second class township code has certain monetary requirements when you want to spend money to purchase a new, approve a contract. Mm-hmm. You know, when you're getting up to the level of this truck, you know, which I think is about $30,000, that you know, you've got to have bidding requirements, and that's really what co-stars takes care of en masse for all of its members. There's no requirement that we use co-stars. Joan did ask me about, you know, the concept of, and there are provisions in the code about, you know, emergencies. And certainly there are certain instances where the township can, outside the bidding requirements, spend money for, you know, an emergency circumstances. I haven't had a chance to look into that issue specifically, just because it was raised just a couple hours ago. But if the township wanted to bid it out, I mean, that's a 2-week process. We would put a notice. I think we just have to come up with something specific enough to describe what the township's looking for, and then place a notice in the newspaper, you know, for 2 successive weeks, and see if any dealers, you know, provide the, you know, answer the bid, and then we would at least fulfill that requirement. That would be a fairly simplistic way. I know that, you know, it's still 2 to 3 weeks away. So
this is a truck that's falling apart. You know, I wouldn't drive it for 2 weeks. I guess my question is, when you do that, is it is this a situation where we could say, look, this truck, the bottom of it is rotting out. The fuel line's completely broken. We need to replace this thing, and we can't have this guy driving around in it for 2 weeks. I guess I say is, what is the threshold of an emergency purchase, right?
Well, I mean,
If
let's
we-
say, for instance, we could
Sorry,
find
Mark.
some other alternative means, like a very short-term lease or something along those lines, just to fill the gap.
Yeah.
I'm conservative when it comes to the bidding requirements, because if when you go beyond them, or if you ignore them, then the code provides for a surcharge to the supervisors that vote in favor of that. So
I guess
conservative side when it comes to that issue, and I've always been that way.
Well, I guess what we're doing here, though, I guess what we aren't actually saying go buy the truck. We're saying here's the money that we approve to spend, right? So, and then Jeff can do his thing and figure out what truck he needs, and then we can go through the bidding process. Is that how we approach this, Mark?
Yeah. If there's that's what I would do. I mean, if there's a truck that we Jeff wants to obtain at a certain dealership, we just need to give an opportunity for anyone else to provide. We know that there may be a truck out there. We haven't checked every dealer, and then try to come up with some alternate accommodation for the time that to bridge the gap, so to speak.
Okay.
And Jeff, it may not take so long, since you have what you want. Just go to 2 other dealers with that truck. I think that's what Mark's saying, and get quotes, see how long it's going to take for them to get it in if they need to find it. And it may be pretty fast, and then we've done everything the way we want to, right by the book.
Sure, I'm happy to do that.
Mark, that works?
That's fine. Yes.
Perfect. Mark, do they need to put a cap on it? Would you recommend that for this evening? Or
Yeah, I would do that. I mean, and again, I don't know what the exact number is, but I would say that the township, I mean, you can ratify the purchase if we were able to get it all done before the next meeting. At that meeting, when you have a specific amount, but if the board approves not to exceed number, then that's all you'd need for now.
Mark, is it possible to just go out to 3 local dealers with a request for quote? 3 local area dealers, Wilmington and Canada or something like that, and then use the lowest one?
Well, I think that, and I hate to be always the stickler, but I mean, as long as we can place these notices in, contact the dealers and let them know, hey, we've got this bid out back, and we want you to be aware of it, and we'd like you to bid on it, then that's not a problem. It's just, we could get it in quickly, and this could get done in, less than 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think that's the right way. If we're buying a truck, just a point of interest, if we're buying a truck for cash, we're unlikely to be able to get it lower than COSAR's. It's going to be a premium, because the car dealers don't make any money on a cash purchase. They make all their money on loans and financing. So they're not going to be too negotiable on the base price. So we're going to probably pay a little premium for a direct cash purchase.
Okay, well, it sounds like it'd be a good idea for us to make a motion and vote on the top amount we're giving you approval to look for to spend. Does that sound right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'll give this a go. Oh, so what do you think, Jeff, is a reasonable amount of money based on what you've looked at?
I would say no more than 36,000, and I believe we can come underneath that.
Does that give you 4-wheel drive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay, well, should I make a motion or?
Yes, please.
Okay, I make a motion that the Board of Supervisors authorize the purchase of a new township truck in an amount not to exceed $36,000. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Dave. We've had discussion. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. Is this the last item? Okay, so I make a motion that the Board approve the June 5th, 2020 minutes as revised at tonight's meeting. Can I get a second?
I would second that, if that doesn't come across as being agreeing with what I wrote.
Discussion.
Maybe I could start it. So we've had this conversation before. I feel pretty passionate about meeting minutes. And I do agree with Nancy that we don't need them to be 30 pages long. But I do want, and I keep on saying this word, context. So as I redid these minutes, I tried to explain why I thought the wording that I added back was why I thought it was important. And I tried to limit how much I added back and to try to keep these things concise. But I did think that providing some context was helpful.
So we've got 3 motions. The first one is the road project. And so if we vote aye, we are voting for the changes. If we vote nay, we keep the original minutes as they are. So any further discussion on the minutes? No?
David, just clarify that the fact that the original minutes submitted were the very abbreviated form.
Yes, they were the initial minutes that were written. So this is true for all 3 minutes: the June 5th road meeting, the June 17th board meeting, and the July 15th board meeting.
Okay, well then there were 3 sets of minutes. There was the initial set of minutes that Eileen generated. Then there was a very abbreviated set of minutes that were proposed.
Yeah, we're voting for the abbreviated set of minutes.
So those minutes were actually approved, and then we agreed that Donna would go back and make changes. So we're actually not voting. If you vote yay, it's not on the approved minutes, it's on Donna's reversion of the reversion.
Okay, that's what I was trying to clarify. That's what I was trying to clarify. Okay.
Right. So voting, yeah. So I know this is complicated because we got 3 sets of minutes here, but so if you vote, if you vote yay to this, you are saying let's make Donna's changes. If you vote nay, we'll stay with the original minutes.
Well, the abbreviated
approved minutes.
The approved minutes, yeah, the original abbreviated or the abbreviated approved minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the original ones are gone. They're not even up for discussion.
Right. Okay. Any other discussion?
No.
Okay.
Can we take it to a vote?
Sure. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Nay. Motion fails.
Mary, did we get Mary?
I'm saying nay.
Okay. Motion fails 2-3.
Can I get an explanation of why you couldn't why that paragraph couldn't go back in? I just want to understand how you're thinking.
2-3. Donna, I would say we just want to go with the minutes we approved and not change them. There's just too much in there. And we don't believe we need it. And we don't.
Paragraph. So I need to understand how we're thinking here. So we're only looking at June 5th right now, right? So that's the only thing we're looking at right now. So I added back a paragraph to explain why in 2012 there was a change to the way the roads were handled. That we moved from large companies to a small company, and that we used our own staff to do a lot of this work. And that just sets the context for any changes that we make in the future. So I don't understand what the objection is. The minutes aren't excessively long. They're a page and a quarter. It provides context. It's not political. It's just providing this is changes that were made in 2012, and now with a new board, we're continuing to fine tune. We're making some other changes, so it's nice to know what you're changing from. I don't understand the objection.
So Don, I don't want to, so just one thing that stands out for me, and I don't want to go word by word, but it says the roads were not in good shape. Well, what data do you have to show that?
They were falling apart. I mean, that's a fact. That was
You
factual.
could say that now. Could I say now the roads are not in good shape? I mean, you have to have data to make statements like that. Now we're using robotics. We'll have data. And that's all I'm going to say.
I don't think there was any argument by anybody. I mean, Nan's still on the line. She was around on the board at the time. I mean, it wasn't anybody's fault. The roads at that point they just weren't in good shape, and the board did what they could to make them drivable. I mean, it's just the way it was. Like I said, it wasn't the board was negligent. There's nothing negative about it to say they were just trying to keep things going as best they could.
Donna, I think Donna, excuse me, but I appreciate your comments, but I think the bottom line is we have voted to keep the abbreviated minutes 3-2, so we need to move on to the next set of minutes and vote on that. That's
all right. I'm just disappointed, but go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Donna. All right.
I make a motion that the board approve the June 17th, 2020 minutes as revised at tonight's meeting. Can I get a second?
I'll second that.
Discussion.
Just the same comments I made before. I tried to provide some context when people, make comments about this was an issue. I thought it was important that we state what the township has done to address that issue. When we state that there's zoning issues, I thought it was important that we state what those zoning issues are in a very abbreviated format. I think it's important to show what progress has been made on certain issues, so in case a resident is concerned, they can see that. So I mean, I'm hopeful that you guys have read why I added back what I added back. We talked about for the emergency for what's going on with COVID. We just said the staff is considering some changes, and we never said what they were. That's not very helpful. So I'll just leave it at that. I did my best to try to provide a bit of context without making the minutes very, very long. I think I added maybe a half a page with the changes.
Yeah, I mean, I think I guess my only comment on all of this is not what's added or what's been removed. It's the amount of time and effort that we put into wordsmithing and going back and forth on what is this and what is that, and I don't like the way this is said, and I want to change the way this is inferred. The minutes are a procedural document, and we don't need to have, they got so out of hand that we had a part-time employee writing them for us. And my point of view has nothing to do with it's the amount of complication that is added. And so I do not want to have this conversation every month. And it's a procedural document, and it should be maintained as a procedural document. All of these meetings are publicly available. You can see them online. They're stored online. So they're not meant to be a transcript, and they're not necessarily meant to provide reasoning, and they're not a historical document of my personal opinions. It's it's the actions I took at the board. So that's all.
David, I couldn't disagree with you more. And let me just tell you why I say that. I'm even more passionate about it than before. I look at this as an historical record, and I know, and I'm not. Believe me, this should not be a transcript. I totally agree with you. It's not a transcript, but you should add the context so anyone who wants to research an issue can understand why this issue was brought up and how a decision was made in concise wording as you can. And I know we can say that we have the YouTube videos. I actually viewed these YouTube videos again, and it's very, very onerous and tedious to sit through hours of talk back and forth. You need the minutes. The minutes are so much simpler. You can scan the minutes very quickly and find out what was going on. And then if you want to get fuller detail, you can always go back to a YouTube video. But if you just keep the minutes to be, there was a motion passed 5-4 on buying a new truck, and then you move on to the next one, motion passed 2-3, or failed 2-3 on, I don't know, on some electronic submission. It's too hard to go back and figure all this stuff out if you have to go back and listen to YouTube to do that. You need a bit of context, and this is the record, and this is what we use to research topics. And I don't think the middle ground, which is not the 40 pages of minutes versus 2 pages of minutes, is asking too much to put a little bit of context back into the discussion. And it shouldn't take hours to do this.
Well, it has been taking hours. It has been taking hours and hours and hours of someone's time at $18 an hour. And then we've gone through 7 revisions and still not agreed on the minutes. So for me, it's concerning to spend the township's money that way. I don't think most of our residents would agree that we should spend a couple $1,000s a month or $1,000 a month on minutes.
It shouldn't cost $1,000. And if you want me to
looking at the historical, I'm just looking at what we've spent over the past 10 years.
Well, that has to change. There's no reason, if you have a 2-hour meeting, there's no reason why you can't get the meeting minutes done within 6 hours. I mean, it's just I know sometimes it's hard to get to hear. You have to listen to it once at least, so you have to spend the whatever time it took to do the meeting. But it doesn't take hours and hours and hours to do it, or it shouldn't. And maybe it's a training issue, and we can talk to whoever's going to write the minutes. But that's not a reason to just go to the abbreviated where you have no context at all. I don't think this is asking. I mean, when I add it back,
Mary,
I don't
you're on
think
mute.
that much.
Mary.
Donna, I appreciate all your input. I've read all your notes. I went back and listened to all the YouTubes of the meeting. So I think now we need to bring it to a vote. We either, what is it? If we say aye, we're voting for Donna's changes. If we say nay, we're staying with the minutes we've already approved. So I think we need to take it to a vote. And I really appreciate all your input, Donna, and we understand it, but we need to take it to a vote and move on to the next meeting. Okay, can we take a vote? Dave, can you handle that?
Yeah, all in favor. So discussion's over. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. Nay.
Nay.
Motion fails 2-3.
Okay.
All right, and then last one is I make a motion that the board approve the July 15th minutes as revised at tonight's meeting, seconded by.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Yeah, I have some comments. I mean, as long as I've been following the township here, the minutes have always included some significant information about how decisions were made. So you're changing something that has been a tradition in the township for a long, long time. And the minutes that we just approved, I consider grossly incomplete. The decisions are indicated, but there are not any notes about how the decisions were made, what factors were considered. Each supervisor has significant input that supported, opposed, or modified these decisions. This debate and discussions are the crux of local government function, and the township residents should not be denied this information. The minutes are a lasting historical record of the meeting and should be available for review by township residents for the purpose of their choosing at any time. The denial of information will be seen by many as a fault in the behavior of Franklin Township government and a gross lack of transparency. The new trio of supervisors, Morris, McVeigh, and Gerstenheimer, have made an enormous flap about the lack of transparency prior to getting on the board. But the first opportunity to demonstrate their adherence to a policy of transparency, they have failed miserably with a grossly complete set of. I'm not finished.
Be careful. I know you're not finished. Be careful. You're insulting me, and I do not appreciate that. And I have never insulted you. Please be careful.
You have failed miserably with incomplete meeting minutes. End of comment.
All right, thank you, John.
I would say if there's no more discussion, let's move it to a vote.
Let's vote.
No, I had discussion, but it's just a clarification. So I don't know what I'm voting on. So in my book, I have, for July 15th minutes, I have a version of minutes that have a two sentence that I added to section C under approval of the minutes. Is that the version we're commenting on?
Joan, can you help us with that? It is kind of unclear to me too.
That is the version, and Nancy, you sent out a correction that you wanted.
Okay, that's okay. Let's just.
No, okay.
Yeah.
But this
Move on.
this is the version with Donna's one change in it.
Okay.
All right, so I would vote to approve this because my one change was added. So I don't know, are we voting, David?
Oh, sorry. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Nay.
Nay.
All right, motion fails 2-3. And then finally, I make a motion that the board adopt resolution 2020-16 regarding the disposition of records for the Board of Supervisors meetings of June 5th, June 17th, and June 15th, seconded by.
I'm confused. I'm confused, David. Wait a second. So we voted not to go. So what are we doing about the minutes? We have to revise them again? Or?
No, well, we're just sticking with the previously approved minutes.
We're not going to spend any more time or money on the minutes.
Wait, no, hold on. We never approved these minutes. This was last meeting.
This is the first time for the July minutes, so you need to either approve them or we need to redo them.
So we have to approve for the July minutes, we need to approve the original minutes as the original.
This is the original. So this was when
the motion
Karen sent them out. She sent out an update. I comment that we talked about minutes. We didn't talk about what Donna was doing, that I took on an action to update the minutes and bring them at the next board meeting. So that's all I added back in here.
Yeah, so it says I make a motion that the board approve the July 15th, 2020 minutes as revised at tonight's meeting.
Well, these are the original minutes.
Oh, okay.
Because we never had them before. So this is them. This is what we're voting on. If you don't want my changes, then you have to say, no, we don't want this minutes, and someone's going to have to come up with something else.
Oh, all right.
Well, there is something else, isn't there? This is
the first time you're seeing these minutes. This is what we always do. We have minutes that are in the book, and we have to agree to them or not.
We have two sets of minutes in the book.
We have the original Sharon's original minutes, and then the
ones you changed.
The piece that you put in with the addition.
But Sharon's weren't minutes. Sharon's was an update. They were never we never voted on them as minutes. They were just an update.
That's what we can do now. We can vote on Sharon's minutes right now.
Where are they? They're not here.
They're right here. They're right in front of the ones that you changed.
That's not what I have.
They say for approval at the top. For approval, Franklin Township Board of Supervisors minutes, July 15th, 2020. So look at the one that says for approval at the top in the book.
The only thing I have in my book is the one that includes my changes. That's what I started off our discussion with. I said, are we voting on the minutes with my changes? That's what's in here. That's all I have in my book.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I have two different versions. I have one that says for approval and one that says draft.
Okay, so this is the for approval that has my change into it. We're not talking about change here, people.
Okay, so do we re-vote on this one and just pass this so we can move on?
Well, if Donna doesn't have a copy of that's for approval, it doesn't seem fair for her to.
I have what's for approval contains my changes.
This is the one. So this is
our set. The one that has your changes, Donna, says draft, and your changes are in blue. So now none of us really know what we're voting on, which isn't a good thing. We should know what we're voting on.
So explain to me. I'm really trying to understand how you guys think. What would be the objection to adding a sentence that says Donna supervises the expressed concerns, and then she took an action to revise the minutes for the board's consideration. There's nothing more factual than that. And then when they look at the minutes,
who would it help in 5 years? Who would benefit from reading this?
we're going to be changing how we're doing the minutes. This provides the record. The record is that there was a meeting on July 15th where a supervisor expressed concerns that context could be lost in the minutes. The board gave the supervisor an opportunity to propose some changes. Fine, that's what that states.
Right. Well,
I came back to the future meeting, and in those minutes, there should be something that says the board agreed to stick with the abbreviated minutes. And I think, Nancy, you're going to ask for a motion that changes the way we do minutes. So you're creating a record, and you can track what happened. That there was a process.
What you can do, Donna, is when you vote nay, you can say why you're voting nay, and then that's a way of having it on the record. And that's an official way to do it.
Because that's interesting, and I'll hold you to that, Nancy, because I put that stuff in my changes for the minutes that you guys voted down. So you would not allow me to put the reason for nay in the other versions of the minutes that I proposed. So it's just
well, going forward.
All right.
But
So
just, Donna, just to help you and John understand, minutes used to look like this. So it's not as if we're just doing something crazy, and all the other townships minutes look like this. So
I agree.
We're not doing a nutty thing here. We're just trying to.
You are doing a nutty thing. And minutes,
place.
Back 5, 6, 7 years, minutes did not look or not abbreviate. Just talk about motions and the vote. They did provide context. I wish you could point out to me, Nancy, where Franklin Township's minutes looked abbreviated within the last 10 years, because I don't believe it. That's not what I've seen.
Since John's been on the board, it's more difficult to do. But Joan, you can certainly pull out a copy of the minutes from before John joined.
I'm going back to when Whipple was on the board and Nam were on the board. The minutes were not. I would not call them abbreviated 2-page minutes. They were.
John can share it with you. We don't have to argue about it.
I have to. Okay. Can I talk now? Okay, Donna, if you want to talk about minutes further, we need to move that to another meeting because it's 5 at 10, and I think we're an hour over limit as it is. We've already voted on the first two, the road meeting and the other one. This last one that we have to vote to approve, I understand you only changed one word. So we need to vote. We're going to approve the minutes as they were written up without your one word or not. If you want to talk about minutes again, we need to move that to another meeting because we have to get on to, I appreciate all your comments, Donna. I truly do. But we need to get on to any public comment and then adjourn this meeting. Okay. So can we vote on, we approve the minutes of July 15th, 2020? If you say you're in favor.
If it helps, Mary, you can say version 3. That's what I see as the minutes that I am comfortable with.
Right. And the difference between version 3 and what Donna is talking about is one word.
No, it's a sentence.
2 sentences.
Two sentences.
It's a couple
okay.
sentences.
Okay. So if you say aye, you're approving version 3, not 2 sentences that Donna added. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay.
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 Okay. So the motion passes 3-2. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for all that robust discussion. Now let's
You did a
move
great
on.
job, Mary. You really
Now
did.
let's move on to any public comment out there. Someone was raising.
Well, I
their
actually
hand.
one more comment before we go to public comments, or you can include it as public comments. Lexington Point, in our books, there was an update from the Lexington Point project where the people from Lexington Point changed the agreement. There was an agreement that Mark was working on. He sent it to them to get their comments. They sat on it for months. And Mark, I think if you could just fill the board in on, they've made major changes, and I'd like to get a sense of what those changes are, and then what we're going to do about it.
Well, you missed the last motion.
What?
You missed the last motion.
We have one more motion. We have one more motion, which is disposition of records.
Okay, all right.
Which is still me. I make a motion that the board adopt resolution 2016 regarding the disposition of records for the Board of Supervisors meetings of June 5th, 2020, June 17th, 2020, July 15th, 2020, seconded by.
I'll second.
Okay, discussion. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nay.
All opposed, say nay.
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 Okay.
Okay.
Motion carries 3-2.
And you said you'll add why we say, so can you add, Donna voted nay because she's concerned about the incompleteness of the minutes for those
Yes.
meetings?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so back to Lexington Point. If Mark could just fill us in on what's going on.
So not to get too far to the weeds, the proposal from the developer is to change the system from a mechanical system to something that would be more akin to a drip irrigation system. We have taken steps over the last year to 2 years to accommodate them. And one of the requirements, we have an agreement to construct the original system, and for them to move forward with a modified system, that agreement needs to be changed. We had sent them our proposed changes to the agreement, which were relatively minimal, about a year ago, last August. And we heard back from them just a couple weeks ago. Sandy and the township's wastewater consultants have reviewed it. I've reviewed it. We had a phone call with Joan 2 days ago, and we agreed that the changes that they proposed were wholesale. There were really too numerous to go through individually, and we're going to communicate with them this week that we're just going to stick with the original agreement. And certainly we'll copy you on that communication. The way the agreement, or at least their proposed changes, it would be a total renegotiation of the previous agreement that the terms of that agreement that they've already agreed to, and we don't want to get back into negotiating something that the terms of which they had already agreed to. So we will communicate that to them, Donna, and we obviously will keep the board in the loop on those communications.
It's disappointing, Mark, but I guess we just keep going round and round and round. But
Mark, I mean, how does this guy keep this thing funded? Like, how does this keep happening? I don't understand what
you're asking a question that many supervisors have asked over the years.
I just feel so worried for the residents of that neighborhood. I mean,
it is a concern for the township, and that's why we've really come to the table and made every effort to try to accommodate their proposal, and certainly the wastewater consultants, which we trust implicitly, have done everything they can as well. So we'll keep working at it. I don't think it's over, and hopefully we can find some way that there's a negotiated agreement that we can agree to the terms of, but not at this point.
Okay.
Mark, there was some information I read where they were trying to get the township involved in collecting money from the residents for current service or something. Is that correct?
They made mention of that at the last meeting we had with them last year, and it wasn't a serious. I remember the mention of it, but it wasn't anything that was seriously discussed. Well, they did put that in the term.
Just for the record, I'd be opposed to the township getting involved in collecting any money from the residents until they turn over a functioning system that meets the effluent requirements of the DEP. At that point, we could consider taking it over and managing the financing. But before that, I wouldn't want the township to get involved in any of it. The other supervisors could comment, but that's my position.
John, I would comment, I think this is a discussion for another evening.
Yeah,
we don't have the information yet, so is no sense. I think we should move on to public comment if possible.
Yeah, they just made that comment once before to me, and I just
right. And I'm sure we'll be discussing this in the future. Can we move on to public comment? Are there any public comments?
I would like to make one. I can't hear you, Mary.
Mute. Here we go. All right. Can you identify yourself and say if you're a resident? I know who you are, though.
Yeah. The name is Brent Van Lith, and I am a resident
And nice to see you, Brent.
of the township. Thank you. Actually, I have one question for somebody, and then I have a comment. The first question is for Nancy. Now, Nancy, you asked Donna to bring facts on her comments that she made on the roads and their condition. Those of us that have been in the township since then know kind of what the roads were like, and I didn't think that comment needed necessarily to have facts behind it, but you certainly brought a fact to our attention that the township is paying $2,000 a month on minutes. So I'd like to know where you got that fact, please.
Well, Joan gave me a summary of how many hours we spend on minutes each month. And Joan, if this is correct, in July, we spent 59 hours on minutes.
That is
So
correct.
that gives you an idea, Brent.
That was
Okay,
1 month.
I do have to say that this isn't a month where we're discussing what's going on in the township, where things used to be a lot more transparent, and I hope I don't get interrupted as I say the same thing, but I think John had hit the point that Mary and David and Nancy have severely let township down in deciding to remove people's comments from the minutes, such as Donna, which Nancy, I got to say, you've been bullying Donna all night, and it's really hard to watch that. I just, what's happening in the township is it's not going well. That's my comment.
Thank you very much, Brent. Any other public comments?
Hi, my name is Michael O'Brien. I'm on Guernsey Road.
Thank you.
My question is, does the township follow Robert's Rule of Order during these meetings? And if not, would you consider that, as most other public meetings follow these types of rules? And that would also give information on how minutes should be kept, if you follow the Robert's Rule of Order.
That's certainly something to consider. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's clear, Michael, that we don't, right? But as David said, maybe it's something we should talk about.
Yeah, most other municipalities, follow Robert's Rule.
Mary, you're muted.
Here we go again. Okay, Michael, there is in the manual for the second-class townships, which we are, there is an article on minutes. I haven't read that whole manual completely, but I will look into that. And I bring it up at a next meeting, or, get back to you, whatever you want. Very good suggestion. Thank you.
It is. And as I'm looking at the Robert's Rule of Order, it says the minutes should contain mainly a record of what was done at the meeting, not what was said by the members. So that may be a very helpful way for us to keep track and to follow agreed professional approach. Thank you.
I'd agree. I think if the board would adopt Robert's rules, it would be helpful.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. Any more public comments out there tonight? Okay, if not, then I just make a brief comment that I'm very sorry my internet went crazy on me and I had to run down here to the township building to try and complete the meeting. I don't know what's going on with my internet, but I will be working on it tomorrow. I appreciate everybody bearing with me on that. I was hoping to get the meeting done earlier. I was also hoping we wouldn't go after each other, which it did devolve into that. And I'm upset about that. I get very upset when someone calls me out that I'm not being transparent. I am trying. I cannot tell you how hard I work on all of this. I want to be transparent. If I don't agree with you, that doesn't mean I'm not transparent. So, and I think that goes for every one of us. We need to be kinder to each other and not fight with each other and do the township business. And we've done a lot of wonderful things. And I want to continue to build on that. I don't want to devolve into, I'm not transparent and you said this and you said that. No, we've done good things. We're going to build on that. That's what our residents want. That's my goal. Call me names. I guess, I have a thick skin. I'll take it, but I really wish you wouldn't do it. I just want to be positive. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting at 10:10. And I hope everybody has a great day tomorrow. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you,
Mary.
Mary.